The man turned to the appraiser and asked him to tell him the result. He asked about the talent of the main character. The main character's name was Aldeheim Noah. He was 5 years old, the eldest son in the family. The appraiser said that the guy's talent was a decoding. There were no other talents. The Aldeheims are a family of magical aristocrats that have existed for many generations. They have produced excellent wizards and sorceresses. Everyone was interested in the results of Noah, the eldest son, who was certainly destined for the greatest talent. The father was shocked by the appraiser's words about his son's talent. His name was Aldeheim Hildegand. He was the current head of the family. He asked about whether his son had neither attack magic nor elemental magic. After this, the man turned his gaze to his eldest son. The latter looked at him innocently and asked what had happened. Then Hildegand flew up to the main character, after which he hit him in the face and said that he was a disgrace to their family. The boy was shocked by his words. The father asked him how he dared to tarnish their reputation like that, to which Noah tried to talk to him, while his face was bruised. But the man did not let him speak. He asked him to keep quiet, after which he added that he was not his son. After that, the man opened the door and walked out of the room. The appraiser tried to call him by name, but he did not respond. When the door slammed, the protagonist began to cry and apologize to everyone. Some time passed. Noah was walking down the hallway. He saw the maid he wanted to talk to. When she saw that it was him calling her, she turned away from him and said that she was very sorry. From that day on, the main character was avoided. He is sure that this happened because his father ordered it. But he tried to behave diligently for his father's sake so that they would not feel hostility towards him. And yet no one wanted to talk to him. Then he began to disappear into the library, reading distracting him from what was happening. One day when he was reading a book, he asked himself how he knew how to read such complex literature. Maybe it was all about his deciphering skills. After that, he began to appear in a library as often as possible. Every time he came there, he thought about which book to take today, because he had already read everything in this room. After some time, he went outside and sat down near the house. And suddenly, not far from him, he saw some kind of slab. He became interested. He crawled closer to it. There were inscriptions in a language unknown to him. After that, he returned to the library where he began to write down the symbols he had seen on paper. He thought that they were terribly complicated. He did not understand what they meant. Then he returned to this slab again and found part of the translation that said that on the back side it was necessary to rearrange in accordance. Then he thought about the backside, after which he saw the text there, which also had to be deciphered. A month later, he was able to decipher all the symbols on the slab. After that, he arranged the books on the shelf as it was written. Almost immediately, the bookshelf moved aside, revealing a passage into a secret room. The protagonist was shocked there was a staircase there, after which he decided to look inside. As he walked down the stairs, he looked around everywhere. One of the lanterns lit up by itself. He wondered if this was the glowing magic stone that was mentioned in the book. After he reached the end, he saw a door in front of him. There were also symbols on it in the language from the slab, but he could already read what was written there, that it was a hidden library. After that, he opened the door. When he entered the room, he saw many large shelves with books. The room was quite spacious, and what he saw made his face turn red, and an admiring cry escaped his mouth. The main character started running between the shelves and thinking that the place, although underground, was light here. He hadn't read any of these books, and they looked very old. Walking around the entire perimeter of the room, he saw something. Separate from everything on the table lay a book, on which were symbols in a similar language. He came closer. On the cover was written that this book was the basics of ancient magic. He opened it and thought that this was some kind of strange book. The main character started reading it, but he almost immediately realized that it was quite complicated, and it looked like he would have to read it for a long time. He thought that he had a lot of time, after which he remembered his father's words that he was no longer his son. And then he began to tremble and cry from resentment. The main character cried a lot and thought that deciphering was a talent that his father had brushed aside. A talent that allows one to simply read and understand various symbols is completely useless in modern society. But deciphering it can transform the structure of the world, because it is conditioned by symbols. But now Noah does not know this. He does not understand this yet. His father told him that at 15 he would leave their mansion, to which the boy replied that he understood everything. Then the man added and said that he was the eldest son of the family, but without magical talent he would not be able to become the head. The main character said that today was his last day in this mansion. He put the book on the table, a cape was pulled over his shoulders. After that, he went and said goodbye to all the service staff. With a smile on his face, he thanked them for everything. However, they continued to ignore him. He thought that during this time, he had become accustomed to being ignored. Noah thought that even so, he never forgot to thank his service. He thought about why he did it and came to the conclusion that he did it simply because he wanted to. He remembered that they had spoken to him, were kind and helpful. The protagonist needed what was natural for a person. After that, his face became determined. He thought that he himself wanted to behave the same way with someone. After a while, he came out of the mansion onto the street. At that moment, he was called out. It was Glenn. He said that he had heard that he had finally been kicked out of the house. Noah greeted him. Aldeheim Glenn was the second son of the family. He was his brother. He was 13 years old. The boy told the protagonist that the post of the next head would be his. Glenn raised his hands in a victory gesture and said that unlike Noah, he can use attack magic. He has a fire element. Every living being has magical abilities, but magic cannot be used without talent. Modern magic is available only to the chosen ones. Here, even if you stand on your head, the situation will not change for the main character. Noah said that even though they have different mothers, they are brothers anyway, so he will miss him. Glenn got angry at his words and then said that he would not miss him, calling him a disgrace to the family. He also added that it was a good thing that he was leaving home. The protagonist immediately remembered his father's words that someone like him was a disgrace to the family. After that, the boy smiled and asked Glenn why he was smiling like that. To which he replied that he simply thought the same way as their father. Also, his brother said that he is very stupid. That's why he irritates him. He can't even use magic. After which he turned to the flame and asked to flare up with his magic ball. Glenn held the formed fireball in his hands with determination, and then announced that this was the first level of flame. After that, the guy threw the ball towards the main character. The latter thought that his brother had amazing magic, but not everything was so good, so he exhaled heavily. Literally at that very moment, the main character used his breeze skill, which destroyed the fireball created by his brother. Noah thought to himself that he had read all the ancient grimoires in the hidden library, and it was all thanks to his ability. It's ancient magic with the help of which one can decipher ancient symbols. However, they differ significantly from modern ones. One symbol can have many meanings and contain powerful magic. Understanding ancient magic has proven to be quite a challenge. The protagonist simply continued to decipher the grimoire day after day. It took him 10 years for the ancient symbols to become a part of him, and he could use magic without saying the spells out loud. Noah can use ancient magic thanks to the grimoires left in their mansion and his talent for deciphering. It seems he can influence modern magic as well. Glenn was shocked by what he saw. He started screaming that this was nonsense, that it was impossible. His magic was perfect. To which the main character suggested and said that perhaps fire magic was dangerous for this place. His brother immediately asked him to shut up, to which the latter responded in agreement. Then Glenn said that Noah couldn't do any magic at all, so he should get out of the house so that they wouldn't see him again. After that, the boy ran towards the house. Noah thought that they had never been able to get along. He was sad to leave on such a note. But in any case, there was nothing he could do. It was time for him to go. If you think about it, the main character has only read books all his life. Now it's time to see with his own eyes what was written in them. But first he had to earn money so he could travel the world. There was no other way. He figured his best bet would be to become an adventurer. After that, he used the skill Skywalk, which helped him rise into the sky to continue his journey there. He doesn't know how far he can go with this magic, but first he will head to the guild. While in the sky, he looked back towards his former home. He turned to his father and thanked him for what he had done for him, and then flew away. At the same time, Glenn, with a wide smile on his face, opened the door to his father's office and called him, to which the man asked him what had happened. The boy happily began to tell that the main character had finally left the mansion. The man seemed not to be happy about this fact. He said that everything was clear to him. He said that there were more important events. In a few days, Princess Claudia, the second princess of the kingdom of Razde, would be coming to them. Glenn should prepare to behave kindly with her, to which he replied that he understood everything. After the boy left his office, the head of the family went to the window and addressed his eldest son with words about not hating him. He also added that the Aldeheim family did not need people without magical talent. He felt a strong sense of relief that the shame of the family had left the house. At this time, the protagonist reached the shopping district. He looked down at it and thought that he would just take a last look. Noah walked along the streets of the area and looked at the passers-by and his surroundings. He admired and said that life was in full swing here. His father had only taken him along once, and that was to a banquet at the castle, so he hadn't really ventured outside the mansion. At that moment, a shop assistant called out to him and offered him a sandwich from the shopping district. The protagonist thought about his words, then hesitantly asked to be given one, to which the seller said that everything was a deal. He would give him 1 silver coin. To this, Noah asked if he could pay for the gold. Then the guy apologized to him for being rude and asked if he was really rich. After which, the main character explained that it was simply all he had. The shopkeeper said that he understood everything, after which he gave him change of 99 silver coins and a sandwich, to which Noah took the items with a smile on his face and thanked him. Then the happy salesman said that he had already thought that the main character was one of Aldeheim's sons who had run away from home. The latter said that everything was clear to him, and to himself he thought that he needed to hide quickly. After some time, he decided to go in search of the guild. He approached one of the carts and asked where they were going, to which the driver answered that they were going to Leblup, and then asked him if he really wanted to go with them. The protagonist thought about his words. This territory is in the east. He decided that he would go, after which he handed the man the coins. After that, he climbed inside the cart and thought to himself that he always wanted to ride in it. There were already 3 men inside. Noah greeted them kindly and apologized for disturbing them, to which they responded indifferently that everything was fine. After that, the carriage moved. One of the men asked him why the main character was in Leblup, to which he replied that he needed an adventurer's guild because he needed to earn some money. The same young man answered him that he understood everything. Things were going well there now. To which Noah replied that it had not always been like that. People started by fertilizing the parched soil. The stranger said that the protagonist was well informed, after which he added that at one time the place was poor, but a lot of time had passed since then. Few people know the history of the city. The guy said that his name is Edgar. They are all traders. Another man said that if he wants, he can tell him about his youth. To which Noah agreed. The main character thought that stories from the first mouth, you can't read such things in books. To understand the essence of things, you need to study them directly. Noah was smiling and thinking that it was a good thing he was riding in the cart. At that moment, it suddenly braked, causing them all to move to the side. In addition, the horse reared up and began to neigh loudly. The driver began to panic, and Edgar asked what was going on there. They all looked out of the cart and looked ahead. There was another cart in their path, but there was not a single living soul in it. But at that moment, they saw a huge monster that started screaming loudly. Edgar asked if it was a demon, and then suggested that it had attacked another carriage. Another man said that it was a wind tiger, an A-class monster. But there should be D and E-class creatures here. It was surprising. After which they saw 2 people trying to fight this monster. Edgar said that they were already fighting it. He felt sorry for the people in that cart, but they had to get out of there quickly. Everyone was tense. The car continued to stand still. Edgar cursed out loud and said that they should be let through. If they started fighting, there would only be more corpses. At that moment, the main character said that he would help these people. To which one of the men asked what he was even talking about. He shouldn't be fooling around. He would only throw his life away. To which Noah thanked them for their concern, but he could not do otherwise. After which he jumped out of the cart and thought that no one had ever helped him. It was so hard that words could not describe it. At that moment, the main character used the landing skill. He turned to the men and told them to go ahead, after which he thanked them for the interesting stories. The carriage moved on. And a few moments later, Noah had already gotten closer to this monster. It was very huge. Because of it, there was a strong wind around which simply swept away everything in its path. The protagonist thought about what he read in one of the books, that the wind tiger is excellent at fighting in the air. It was advised to keep it on the ground to limit its maneuverability. At that moment, the knight in armor saw Noah. He was just floating in the air. He called out to the monster and said that he was here, he should go and get him. At that time, he was thinking that first, he needed to switch the tiger's attention to himself. Wind Tiger always accepts the invitation to fight in an air battle. When the trick worked, he thought, this is great, now those people are temporarily safe. At that moment, the monster struck. The protagonist cursed. He thought that he had never used ancient attack magic in battle, but he still had no other choice. While he was thinking, this knight also entered the battle. With cries of what he should get, he threw his sword at him. At that moment, the Wind Tiger was distracted by the attack, and the knight immediately cursed. The protagonist thought that now was the time to attack, after which he put his hand in front of him. After his attack, the Wind Tiger was torn apart. The knight and the girl were shocked. The girl thought that the purple fire attack was amazing. Noah exhaled heavily and said that it was good that he succeeded after all. After that, the guy sat down on the ground as if he had run out of strength. The girl turned to him and thanked him for protecting them. The protagonist stood up, after which he apologized to them for being so late, and then said that he would go. The girl, with a determined look, asked him to stop. She said that she wanted to ask him to thank her for saving them, but they were heading to the Aldeheim estate, after which she asked if he wanted to come with them. The protagonist realized that these people were going to visit his family. He said out loud that he was in a hurry so he couldn't, and the best gratitude for him was their safety. Then the girl asked him to at least say his name, to which the guy turned around with a smile and said that his name was Noah. The girl blushed at the information she received and repeated his name. At that moment, the knight said that the horse was safe and that they needed to move on. She turned to the man and said that this was good news. At that moment, Noah flew away, while the girl was distracted by the knight with their stripe. The main character had already disappeared. She turned around and called his name, but there was no one there. The girl said that Mr. Noah seemed to be an outstanding wizard. She thought to herself that his appearance seemed familiar to her. At this time, the main character flew away a decent distance. When he landed, he thought that for the first time someone thanked him. He also thought about the fact that his talent for deciphering was a failure, he believed, and that he had managed to make it a little more useful. At the same time, he was very pleased with himself. After some time, the girl and the knight reached the estate. The head of the family thanked them for having come all the way to his residence, to which the girl also thanked him for inviting them. It turns out that this girl was the second princess of the kingdom of Razde, Claudia. Glenn at that moment thought that she was so cute he had never seen such beauty, and she would belong to him. At that moment, the father was thinking that if his son married Claudia, their family's position would become even more stable, so the guy shouldn't let him down. The head of the family also said that he was glad to know that they had arrived without incident, to which the girl replied that this was not entirely true. To be honest, they had been attacked by a wind tiger. At that moment, the knight intervened in the conversation and said that if the princess had not wanted to leave the castle, this would not have happened. To which the girl replied that she was bored in the castle, that was the whole reason. After that, she realized that she shouldn't behave like that, and then apologized to everyone and said that a wizard who was passing by helped them. He killed the tiger with one attack of purple flame. Father thought about the violet flame because it does not exist in modern magic. He said out loud that he had not heard of it, although most great wizards know each other. The girl asked him if he knew their savior, and also told him that he was very polite, with nice dark hair and a sharp look. This wizard's name is Noah. The father, having heard this description, thought that it was impossible. His son was so stupid that he could not use magic in principle. He said out loud that he did not know such people. Then the girl asked him where the eldest son of the family was. Claudia also said that Mr. Noah was at a reception at Razde Castle, to which the man replied that there was no Noah in their family. Their eldest son was Glenn. At this point, the latter joined the conversation and said that he, by the way, was also a fire wizard, and then demonstrated his flame. However, the girl was upset by these words. She said that everything was clear to her. She bowed to them and said that the conversation about a marriage of convenience would have to be postponed. When she returned to the capital of the kingdom, she would study the affairs of the Aldeheim family in more detail. At this time, the chief thought that it was bad if a rumor spread that the eldest son was expelled from the family. Their name would be tarnished. The knight asked him to forgive the princess for her rudeness, to which the man replied that everything was fine. He thought to himself that he needed to find and return his eldest son before the princess. Father turned to Glenn and said that he would leave the house for a while. He had to take care of himself. The latter, shocked, asked him again about what was going on, about his marriage of convenience and his beautiful wife. After some time, the protagonist reached the territory of Wajesti, the city of Leblup. He stood in front of the Adventurers Guild building. It was obvious that he was in shock. The guy went inside and said that he apologized to them for disturbing him. First of all, he needed to register. Inside, he heard the voice of a girl asking if anyone could urgently go to the volcano. She also said that an S-class monster, Fafnir, was just discovered there. And Lady Serena is there now, thinking that she is taming a fire dragon. The adventurers immediately asked if it was because of this monster that the kingdom of Razde was on the verge of destruction. Some began to talk about how they needed to hurry to help. Others asked what use they would be. One man said that Serena is the strongest member of the guild, to which they began to argue with him and say that this is not a reason to abandon her. At the same time, the girl said that it was her fault since she gave the task. The main character thought that they had problems. Maybe he himself should go to that volcano and bring that girl back. He said it out loud, that he would go and take Lady Serena from there. Everyone in the guild was shocked. The girl asked him what rank he was as an adventurer. He smiled and said that he had not yet registered. Everyone suddenly fell silent. They refused him. The protagonist thought that he was not an adventurer yet, so their distrust in response to his words was not surprising. People continued to discuss the current situation. Noah thought that everyone was desperate because of Lady Serena. She was definitely an important person to them. If something were to happen to her, many would grieve. Moreover, when faced with an S-class monster, she would have to confront him alone. He must go in order to make it. The protagonist clenched his fist and thought that the ancient magic had worked even on the Wind Tiger, an A-class monster. He was sure that it would work on Fafnir as well. After that, he used his transition skill and went straight to Leblup volcano. At the same time, there was a tired girl there. She held her sword in her hands, ready to attack at any moment. She wondered to herself how the dragon had gotten here in the first place. At that moment, the monster opened its mouth to scream loudly. She thought that she would not be able to defeat an opponent of such a level. However, a few moments later, the main character appeared in front of her. The latter asked her if she was Lady Serena. She was shocked. At that moment, the dragon decided to attack with its flames. The protagonist at the last moment set up a barrier that protected them from the attack. They were safe and sound. He said that it was not for nothing that Fafnir was an S-class monster. He could withstand absolute flames. Feeling the great magic power, he strengthened the spell. But the fire's power was still not enough. Serena asked him who he was and how he got there. The protagonist replied that his name was Noah and he wanted to become an adventurer. The girl was shocked. She thought about his desire to become an adventurer. At that moment, the guy said that he would first deal with the dragon. He headed straight for Fafnir. She tried to stop him, saying that even an adventurer couldn't handle this monster. But he didn't even listen to her. After that, he attacked the dragon. It was carried away some distance, but did not cause much damage. He said that this monster also cannot be killed. The effectiveness is expectedly lower than with the Wind Tiger. The girl was shocked. She asked if he was really a monster. To which Noah replied that he was very offended when she called him a monster. Then she asked if she really said that. After that, Fafnir called him a human being and asked him what kind of magic he had. First Serena, and now him. The dragon had just awakened from the seal. The protagonist looked at the dragon in shock. He asked him if it was really him talking to him. Fafnir chuckled and said that it was interesting. He didn't think anyone could talk to him. The protagonist said that he was as surprised as he was, and then asked for forgiveness for attacking him so suddenly. But he explained that they were not hostile towards him. The dragon did not believe him. Fafnir asked him if the man's words could be trusted, and then added that they had come to put a new seal on him. The protagonist explained that everything was wrong. The girl who fought first came here to destroy the fire dragon, and he had already followed her. Noah said seriously that he promised not to harm him anymore. The dragon asked him if he was telling the truth. At this point, Serena interrupted the conversation and asked if he was really talking to a dragon right now. She said that she did not understand their speech at all. after which she asked about whether this was the language of monsters. The protagonist realized that he had switched to Fafnir's language subconsciously. Out loud, he said that they spoke in an ancient language. Noah said that he had read in books that other dragon species could only speak the ancient language. Fafnir asked again about the ancient language, then added that he had been a bit rowdy, which is why he had been sealed away for a long time. The dragon said that it was good that the main character had a kind heart and the ability to speak. He also added that he was a herbivore. After that, Noah turned to Serena and said that everything was fine now. This dragon was not a bad monster. The girl, shocked, asked him again if he was joking. She also said that even if he had no hostile intentions, the kingdom of Razde would definitely not leave such a monster alone. The guy agreed with her. After that, he turned to the dragon and said that if he stayed here, other people would probably come here to seal him. Then he offered him a contract as a minion. Fafnir asked again about the minion's contract, after which he clarified that this agreement would really be between him and a human. The dragon realized that such a contract would give him protection, and after that he asked the protagonist to do it. Fafnir said that to make him a minion, advanced lunar magic is needed, for which he asked if there was anything terrible about it, to which the protagonist replied that everything was fine. After that, a huge seal appeared on the ground. Powerful streams of energy emanated from her. Serena was shocked. The girl asked what was happening. A few moments later, after the smoke cleared, she asked what the protagonist had done, to which the latter replied that he had made a minion contract with the dragon. The boy also told the girl that she could now talk to him too. She asked him in shock what he meant. At that time, Fafnir said that it was incredible. His size became small. He said that the contract was concluded surprisingly easily, after which he added that Noah was still a monster. Serena asked if this little dragon was Fafnir, to which the boy replied that the minion contract had shrunk him in size. He turned to the dragon and said his name, after which everyone else introduced themselves to each other as well. The main character said that the dragon had changed so much that Fafnir was not even recognized in the city, to which the latter replied that people would finally stop sealing him. The girl, shocked, said that he was really talking. Noah said with a big smile on his face that it was cool. He had friends. Fafnir laughed and said that the henchman who is a friend, he is clearly a funny guy. The girl at this time did not believe in what was happening. After some time, they all returned to the guild. The girl administrator said that she was so glad that the lady was alive. She apologized to her for the fact that all this happened because of her fault, to which she was told that everything ended well. At this time, the main character stood behind everyone with a dragon on his shoulder. He watched everyone carefully and smiled sweetly. A few moments later, Noah and Serena came outside. The girl said that she had reported to the guild that she had not met any dragon, to which the guy replied that it was good, after which he thanked her. She asked him where he was thinking of spending the night. The protagonist replied that he hadn't decided yet. He didn't have much money, so maybe under the open sky. He didn't care. Serena thought about his words. After that, she hesitantly asked him if he would mind going to her place then. The guy asked her about it again. The girl immediately blushed and said that she didn't mean anything like that. She just wanted to thank him for his help, and she had a free room at home. The protagonist asked her if she was sure of her decision. She replied that she was, and that she would treat him to food because she was a good cook. After some time, they found themselves at Serena's house. The protagonist was eating the food she had prepared. He said that it was delicious, and Fafnir also confirmed his words. The girl told them not to be shy, to eat as much as they wanted. She also had more. To which the guy replied that he understood everything, after which he thanked her. Serena turned back to the stove and said that he still surprised her. First he appeared in front of her as if out of nowhere, and then blew away the dragon. To which the main character replied that he used ancient magic. The girl laughed and said that she didn't understand anything about it. Then Noah said that it hurt. Serena asked him if he really wanted to become an adventurer, and then suggested that he go to the guild tomorrow morning and register. As the eldest, she would tell him everything. The protagonist thanked her, calling Lady Serena, to which the latter said that he should simply call her by her name. She did not need these honors. The next day, the two of them came to the guild. The protagonist was handed a form and told that he first had to fill in all the required fields. He agreed, and the girl administrator also asked him if this little dragon was really his assistant. Fafnir sat silently on his shoulder. The protagonist responded positively at that moment, then turned to him and handed him the collar. He explained that it was a collar that had a minion contract mark on it, so people in the city wouldn't mistake him for a wild monster. The dragon said that it was great, and then thanked him with the collar already on his neck. Serena said that it suited him. The protagonist also whispered that he had carved a rune of ductility on it so that it would not break when Fafnir returned to its original form. After some time, the administrator returned and apologized for the wait. The girl pointed to the door and said that now he needed to go into this room for a talent assessment. The dragon asked him what was wrong, as his magic power had suddenly become confused. He replied that he had bad memories of the talent assessment, but they had nothing else to do, so they had to go there. The main character entered the room. There was a man in glasses. He said that he was an appraiser. His name was Carl. The guy also introduced himself, after which they got down to business. A light lit up on the table in front of the man. Noah watched his actions carefully. Carl asked if deciphering was really his skill. The man said that he was amazed because he had a very rare talent. The protagonist was shocked by his words. He asked him about it again. Carl explained that in his 10 years of working here, for the first time a person with a talent for deciphering appeared. Only he was not very suitable for an adventurer, after which he offered to find him another job, to which the main character thanked him and said that he did not need it. The man said that the profession of an adventurer is full of danger, so he asks him to be careful. After some time, they left the room. Noah was glad that he felt relieved that his talent was not called talentless. He said that Carl was a good man. The dragon said that his talent could not be ignored. After that, he went to the task board with Serena. The latter said that since he was an F rank, he should start with gathering requests. He replied that he understood everything. They chose one of the quests, according to which they must go to the Eastern Forest to collect 10 medicinal herbs there. The recommended rank for completing the quest is F. The reward is 4 silver coins. Fafnir asked how much food could be bought for this reward, to which the protagonist replied that 4 sandwiches. Serena said that this is where everyone starts. They should go straight to the Eastern Forest. After some time, they reached the necessary place. The dragon said that in order to find a specific plant in such a large forest, they would have to try hard, to which the main character said with a smile that they wouldn't need much time, after which he used his material detection skill. He said that this spell allows him to instantly determine the location of different materials. The dragon said that he was doing something unthinkable again. The protagonist replied that it was the creator of this ancient magic who went beyond the bounds of the conceivable, not him. Fanfur said that Noah was also an unusual person, capable of using it. At that moment, they found the herb. They quickly returned back to the guild. Serena and the administrator were shocked that he brought a whole basket of medicinal herbs. The guy explained that in addition to medicinal herbs, he had collected others that he found useful. Serena said that for some reason she was not surprised. After that, together with the herbs, they went to the appraiser Carl, who said in shock that he could not believe that he had collected so much and so quickly. Holding a magnifying glass in his hand, he examined one of the plants. He said that even rare panacea and magic herbs are in perfect condition. Carl said that the protagonist completed the first quest brilliantly, to which the latter thanked him for the praise. The man said that he could not even imagine that such a result could be obtained from a person with a talent for deciphering. Here, even his eyes of an evaluator were blind. The protagonist said that he was still a complete newbie. Carl said that often a novice adventurer only searches for medicinal herbs for half a day, after which he asked if he had decided on the next quest. Noah replied negatively. Then the man said that he had one quest that he would like to entrust to him, to which the guy replied that he would only be happy to agree. The protagonist looked at the piece of paper which said that he needed to go to the Eastern Forest to collect 1 magic flower. The recommended rank was B, and the reward was 5 platinum coins. Carl said that the magic flowers are an ingredient for creating the elixir of life. Noah asked if it was really he who, according to rumors, cures all diseases. The man answered positively. The protagonist began to doubt because the rank was too high. He said that as far as he knew, he could now take a maximum of E ranks, to which Carl replied that he should not worry. Even if he failed, he would pay compensation. The man said that his daughter was being tormented by an unknown illness. At the same time, it was clear that he was very worried about this. He said that he had consulted all the doctors in Leblup, but none of them could help, so the only way to heal her was to use the power of the elixir of life. The man said that he had already obtained the panacea he needed, holy water and mermaid tears. But all searches for the magic flower ended in failure. It was originally a rare plant, which was found several times a year. However, in the last couple of years, no one has come across even one, and now Mr. Noah has demonstrated such results. Perhaps he will be the one to find it. Carl said that he was the customer of this quest, so he hoped that the main character would not refuse to help him. The latter said that he understood everything, after which he agreed to take on this search. The man thanked him with all his heart. At that time, the dragon asked him if it would not be easier to cure that disease with the help of ancient magic. The main character explained that the illnesses are more related to medicine than magic, but she is still able to cope with some. The guy turned to Carl and said that first he would like to check on his daughter's condition, to which the man replied that it was good. When he finished work for the day, they would go to his house. At that moment, the doors to the guild swung open. An unknown guy approached Carl and said that something bad had happened. Something had happened to Lady Carla. The man was seriously scared. After some time, they came to Carl's house. The latter addressed his wife by name, calling her Sarah. The latter shuddered in surprise. They approached their daughter's bed. The man asked her what was wrong with the girl. Sarah explained that Carla had suddenly lost consciousness and had not regained consciousness. The doctor asked what the reason was because her body was fine. At this time, the main character was looking at the girl attentively. Suddenly, something dawned on him and he asked to speak. At that moment, the doctor asked him what he was doing. They had an emergency. He shouldn't distract him. To which the main character did not listen to him. He said that this girl had a syndrome of hardening of magical meridians. This disease disrupts the capacity of the channels through which magical energy flows. Everyone was shocked. The protagonist said that it constantly circulates in the bodies of living beings, regardless of whether they know how to use it. After that, he extended his hands to use the skill on the girl. He said that only a small amount of energy was flowing through their daughter's body at the moment. The illness was more of a magical rather than medical nature. It was no surprise that the cause was unknown. Carl asked him if he was able to cure her, to which the protagonist replied that he was currently pouring his energy to temporarily alleviate the symptoms, but the power of the elixir was still needed for healing. Noah said that he urgently had to go to the forest to look for the magic flower. Serena said that it was getting dark soon and it was dangerous to go alone, so she went with him. Carl said that he had no magical search tools. The protagonist immediately asked him about it again, after which the girl explained that you can take magical search tools for high-complexity quests. She also added that it was unknown how long it would take to get the manager's approval. Noah said that this situation could not wait. He could do without any tools. They would find the magic flower. At the same time, Carl bowed his head and thanked him as well as Lady Serena. Sarah also asked them to be careful. After that, the main character and the girl went outside. He decided to use the spatial transition to the forest, after which he asked her to hold onto him tighter. The girl agreed, and they were transported. Now, to find the magic flower, you need to run through the forest with the material detection activated. He asked her if she would mind running, to which she also agreed. After that, the two of them quickly ran through the forest. The magic flower, according to its name, should bloom in a magic place. The dragon said that this area has been home to fairies for hundreds of years. But that's strange, because he doesn't see any now. Serena suggested that perhaps they had moved to another place, to which the dragon replied that he doubted it because fairies were used to living in solitude, they could not leave their cozy forest. Fafnir said that if you consider that the flowers are grown by fairies, and recently they stopped growing, then perhaps someone took the fairies. At that moment, the girl said that she felt something. The dragon replied that she had excellent sensitivity. After that, the whole company froze in place. The dragon flew off the main character's shoulder, and the girl began to take out her sword and say that the enemy was approaching. At that moment, a huge monster appeared from the side of her, which had the head of a piranha fish, and in his hand, he had a trident. The girl immediately blocked his blow with her sword. Serena sliced the monster's torso with her sword, causing the upper part to fly off. She then turned to Fafnir. The dragon said that he would sort it out now, after which he released his fire on this monster. The protagonist watched their coordinated work in shock. He told them that they were great, that they had perfect team coordination. He didn't even realize that there was a monster lurking there. To which Serena sighed and said that Noah was indeed an adventurer, a newbie. To which Fafnir agreed with her and said that there was a huge difference between skills and actual combat experience. Serena asked him how the search for the flower was going, to which the protagonist replied that he felt a weak response. After some time they came to a pond. The girl asked him if this was really a lake. Noah pointed his hand at the pond. The main character said that the response of the magic flower comes from the bottom of this lake. The girl in shock asked if it was true. She also asked why it grew there, to which he replied that it was true. Magical flowers were not aquatic plants. He thought to himself that the magical energy was concentrated there after all. Serena said that in any case they had no choice, even though she didn't like swimming. But what could she do? To which the main character told her that he would take a look himself. What was there, after which he flew into the air. The girl tried to stop him. After that, Noah used the air cover skill, which seemed to take their bodies with the dragon into a barrier. After which, together with his assistant, they plopped into the water. The girl, watching them, said that everything was clear. The main character was in his repertoire. The last one was already at the bottom of the lake. A few moments later, he found himself in front of an unknown object. The dragon asked him what it was, to which the protagonist replied that it was a spatial rift, a type of ancient magic. He added that, simply put, it allows one to move freely to the place it leads to and back. Fafnir said that he felt a faint hint of the magic of the fairies. The protagonist also said that the response of the magic flower also comes from him. The dragon added that only fairies are incapable of such magic. They clearly did not leave on their own. Someone took them away. The protagonist looked ahead resolutely. After that, he decided to touch this gap. But it seemed to move in the direction of the touch. Noah said that there was a barrier here. This confused him a little. To which the dragon said that he would destroy it. After that, Fafnir flew a little to the side and used his fire. The protagonist said that he did not succeed. To which the dragon replied that it was all about the water, because they were here. Noah asked to give him a minute. He would try to remove it himself. The guy stood in front of him. Magical energy appeared on his palms. The protagonist thought that they had done a good job with this barrier, but he could still do it. A second later, he actually broke the barrier. The dragon addressed him by name and told him that he had an unexpected opportunity to gain combat experience. He asked him to determine where the monster was now. The main character thought for a minute, concentrated, and said that now he understood and a monster was clearly behind. And when they turned around together, they were very surprised. In front of them was a huge sea serpent. The snake had a very long body. The protagonist asked why it was in a freshwater lake, since its natural habitat is the sea. At this time, the monster said that he slept so well and peacefully, and then asked what the man had forgotten under the water at night. The protagonist realized that the snake also spoke the language of monsters. He said out loud that he had come across another talking monster. The snake said that if he did not deal with the intruder, the spirit of darkness would be displeased. Noah thought about the spirit of darkness and then asked out loud who he was. To which the monster replied that he himself did not know, but it was better not to anger him. He appeared out of nowhere and pulled him out of the sea. To which the main character thanked him for sharing with him. To which the monster was surprised and asked if a person could really talk to him. Noah said that he could do that before. That's the nature of deciphering. The protagonist looked at the monster seriously and told Tom that he was trying to avoid unnecessary conflicts. So could he just let him pass? The snake asked if he was really asking to let him through, after which he refused him and said that he would rather eat him here. Fafnir said that, apparently, he had a bloodthirsty character, not like him. After that, the protagonist used the skywalk skill and then rose higher. Thus he managed to escape the snake's strangling attack. At that moment, the dragon jumped off his shoulder and told him to go look for the flower. He himself would deal with this enemy. The main character tried to argue with him, to which Fafnir asked him if he wanted to save this girl, and if so, then he should hurry. Her body would not last long. After that, the guy thanked him for his help, and then he created a separate barrier for the dragon so that he could breathe freely underwater. The protagonist said that Fafnir was now in the air shroud. The latter told him to rely on him, after which they separated. At that moment, the serpent opened his mouth and said that Noah would not pass by him. He was ready to eat him when the dragon released his fire into the sky and told him not to interfere. The main character said that he leaves the rest to the dragon. The magic flower must be behind the spatial gap. The guy said that he didn't know where it was leading, but he would definitely get the magic flower, after which he plunged straight into this gap. After a few moments, he began to spin in the air. There were strange patterns around him, after which he found himself on the ground. The main character stood up, looked around, and asked if it was really somewhere here. The sun was shining brightly in the sky. The guy looked closely at the sky and said that he saw daylight. He wondered if he had been teleported so far that the time zone had changed abruptly. After that, the main character thought that this was wrong. The space itself was created with the help of magic. Then he heard someone crying nearby. The stranger cried bitterly and said that everyone had been caught. There were abrasions on her body and large tears were running down her face. The girl was saying that she didn't know what to do. The protagonist looked at her and thought that she seemed to be injured. After that, he used his healing skill on her. The girl was shocked. He apologized to her for scaring her and then explained that he was just using healing magic. The stranger blushed and said that she was grateful to him. The main character said that his name was Noah. He was a budding adventurer. It turns out it was a fairy. He asked her if she really was a fairy, to which she replied yes, and then asked him if he really was a human. The main character also answered her positively, after which he sat down on a stump and said that his talent was deciphering. The fairy said that she understood why he could talk to her, even though he was a human, to which the guy replied that he believed that this was really the reason. She told him that initially they, the fairies, lived in the forest of Leblup. However, then an evil spirit of darkness appeared, who caught them and imprisoned them in this space. They tried to escape from him, but in vain. Everyone except her is kept in prison where the huge tree is. Noah asked why the spirit of darkness needed them, what he was going to do with them, to which the fairy replied that she herself did not know, after which she asked him what he was doing here at all. He replied that he really needed to find a magic flower to cure a sick girl. The fairy replied that magic flowers really did grow here. She sat on his head and said with a serious expression that there were some problems. After that, they went to the tree and saw that there was a cage for fairies hanging there. The main character looked at this picture and said that it was horrible. He immediately ran there to save them. But the fairy stopped him and said that if he went further, he would be attacked. After that, a golem appeared before them, a guard. The fairy said that he guards this place during the absence of the spirit of darkness. The main character said that it seemed like he needed to save the fairies and collect the magic flowers. But first he had to defeat him. After that, Noah told her not to be afraid. He would definitely free her friends. The latter at that moment looked at him attentively. The protagonist asked her to hide somewhere safe for now. The girl stuttered and agreed, then thanked him and told him to be careful. After that, the guy turned to his enemy and thought that he could defeat him only by rewriting the ancient symbols that were carved on his chest. But first he needed to damage him and immobilize him. While he was thinking about his plan to deal with the enemy, the latter began to attack him. In doing so, he trampled the magic flower with his actions. After that, the golem wanted to attack him. He swung his hand. But the main character used his skill and then soared into the air. The guy thought to himself that it was not for nothing that he had inscribed the ancient symbol of protection on his robe. The golem's attack power was not childish. He was of a very high level, and it was not advisable for him to receive another such blow. After that, the main character used the trajectory change skill, and then flew around his enemy in a triangle shape. He placed magic seals in all the corners, then he stood behind one of them and used the absolute flame skill, which released a purple weapon. However, after a few seconds when the effect stopped, he saw that the golem was standing as if nothing had happened. He wondered if the absolute flame hadn't worked. After that, he decided to use his skill magic shot. It is a strong enough skill that should cause damage to the enemy. At this time, the fairy was watching him from behind a tree. However, after the smoke cleared, the golem was back in action, swinging its arm to strike the protagonist. The protagonist thought that this was not good. The boy was unable to avoid the blow, so when the enemy's fist made contact with his body, he flew away quite a distance. It dawned on him that this golem was made of mithril. He flew into a huge boulder with his body. Small cracks formed around it. He thought about mithril being an ore resistant to magic. The spell can penetrate it. But if even the ancients are not effective, then the highest quality mithril was used here. This giant cannot be defeated by magic. After that, the golem was again close to the protagonist. He again began to swing his hand to strike. Noah thought that things were bad. He decided to use spatial transference. Then he realized that it was not working and the monster's fist was already near his head. At that moment, his entire body was blown off by the blow. The guy was clearly in pain. He flew back a long distance. The protagonist was lying on the ground. His clothes were tattered. He had many bruises and abrasions on him. He looked at the golem and thought about how he could win. He thought about how he could erase the symbols on his chest without making him immobile. Then he told himself that he couldn't do that because there was a solid barrier there. The protagonist also thought that he could not escape from here without defeating the golem. He was unable to save the fairies or bring the magic flower to Carl. The guy thought that if he had a fighting talent, he would come up with a way to defeat the enemy without magic, but he only has a decryption and ancient spells. After that, Noah stood up and thought that even if they didn't work on this golem, he had no other way but to defeat it. Barely standing on his feet, the protagonist created a magic seal, after which he decided to use his absolute flame skill. In addition, several more magic seals were created. He decided that he would change the formula to increase the power of the ancient magic. He would give it his all, but it would break through his magical defense. The protagonist thought that he needed to understand the ancient symbols, to put magic into each of them, deeper than ever before. After that, Noah stretched out his hand in front of him. A desperate expression froze on his face. He thought about how he needed to dive into the abyss itself. He would definitely return to Carl with the magic flower so that he would not be defeated in such a place. The guy was very determined. However, when he decided to use his power, the space in her eyes seemed to double, and a small flame burst out from her hand. He did not understand what was happening. Noah thought about how his head was spinning and everything was swimming before his eyes, and it occurred to him that his supply of magic was exhausted. Then he began to fall backwards. At this moment, the golem let out a loud cry, after which he came closer, hanging with his whole body over the main character. The last one was sitting on the ground, blood was flowing from his nose. He didn't have the strength to fight back. The fairy was shocked by what was happening. The guy thought that everything was bad, he was losing consciousness. And suddenly he heard the rustling of paper. He wondered what that rustling was. It reminded him of turning pages. When the main character opened his eyes, he saw a large book in front of him. He was hanging in the air and asking where he was and where the guard golem was. Then he turned his gaze to the book and thought that the writing in it was very ancient and complex. There he read about the composite material and mithril. Thanks to numerous formulas, the magical protection was brought to the limit. There was also something about the caster and the spirit of darkness. The protagonist suddenly seemed to come to his senses and thought about why this book contained so much information about that golem. He quickly began to flip through the pages to learn as much as possible. The guy also thought that she was radiating incredible magical power, as if she was ancient magic. It really looked like she was surrounded by magical energy from head to toe. After that, he raised his index and middle fingers in the air, and magic appeared around them. He thought that if all this was really so, then perhaps he could rewrite its formulas. Then he began to move the same fingers along the pages of the book. He read about changing the natural properties of mithril from anti-magic to those that facilitate the passage of magic. At the same time, his eyes seemed to be covered with a haze. After he read this information, the book suddenly closed. He didn't even expect it. On the cover was written its title, The Book of Peace. After a while, a voice began to break through his confused consciousness, calling him by name. It was a fairy, asking him to wake up while pulling him by the clothes with her small hands. It was obvious that she was having a hard time. The main character asked what was happening to him. At the same time, he had not fully regained consciousness. The fairy immediately called him by name. She was worried. After that, he came to and asked if he had really passed out. When he looked in front of him, he saw the golem, who was roaring loudly again. At that moment, the fairy cursed. She said that it would be better if this did not happen. At the same time, she was dragging Noah on her back. After some time, they flew away to a sufficient distance. The girl said that now he definitely won't get them. The main character said that she saved him from the monster while he was unconscious. The guy smiled at her, thanked her, and said that everything was fine now. The girl was very tired. She saw that he was moving back, after which she began to scream with tears in her eyes that he should not do it. The protagonist thought that he had a little magic left, and even the most powerful absolute flame had no effect on him. It was clear what powerful thought processes were going on in his head. The fairy continued to tell him that Mr. Noah should come to his senses, that they needed to run. However, the guy was very stubborn. He had already decided everything for himself. The protagonist stood and looked at the golem. He wondered if what he saw in the book was really a dream. If the book of the world itself was really a dream. The boy thought that he had never read or heard of such a thing. At that moment, he used the skill Air Cover, which he used on the fairy. She was surprised by his actions. The girl asked him what it was, but the main character didn't answer her. He was thinking about whether she would really make his magic work on the golem. The guy closed his eyes and said that no, he wouldn't be able to do it. It was impossible to change the foundation of the world with such ease. After that, he put his hand in front of him and thought about how he could only hope for the Book of Peace. He asked for everything to be fine, even if his magic resistance was reduced just a little bit. Then, after saying his words, he aimed a blow straight at the golem's chest. He watched the action carefully and thought that it would be enough to just scratch the ancient symbol on its chest. However, everything happened completely differently than he imagined. The monster in front of him split into pieces, and from his blow, a huge hole appeared in the center of the chest. The guy was shocked by what happened. The fairy who was watching what was happening smiled broadly and said that it was incredible. The main character thought that he couldn't believe his eyes. The changes in the book were reflected in reality. After that, he dropped one knee to the ground and thought about how the guardian golem was completely disabled. He looked at the remains of the enemy and thought about how much precious mithril was here. The main character thought about where such power comes from in the book of the world. Then he said that now is not the time to think about it. He decided that for now, all the remains of the golem would lie in his inventory. He put out his hand, and then with the help of the skill, began to suck all the remains into the storage. The protagonist said with a determined look that he had finally figured this out, after which he turned his gaze to the cage with the fairies. A moment later, he approached her to lower her from the tree to the ground, after which he dismembered her with his bare hands so that the fairies could fly out. The latter looked at him with distrust, since he was an unknown person to them. After all the fairies left the cage, a girl flew up to them and said that she was so glad that they were all safe. They began to smile at each other and rejoice at being saved. And then the girl turned to the main character with tears in her eyes. She called him by name and told him that she thanked him with all her heart. One of the fairies asked her if he was really a man. To which the girl said that they should not be afraid because Mr. Noah was very good. At this time, the main character looked at the tree trunk. A new spatial gap had formed near it, which was quite large. He watched him closely and thought that now he could leave this place. At the same time, his whole face and clothes were covered in dirt. He remembered his original goal and said that all he had to do was collect the magic flowers. After that, he fell to the ground and started searching. The protagonist's face was very focused. He was looking through all the grass to find his target. The fairies were also watching his actions closely. The main character turned away to one of the flowers. However, it was broken. The guy cursed, after which he began to look for other flowers. He realized that they were all broken. Holding one of the flowers in his hand, he thought about how their fight with the golem had dragged on too long. He said that it was all bad. He wouldn't be able to make the elixir. The protagonist's face showed despair. He looked at several flowers, but they were all broken. Not a single one was whole. The guy exclaimed that without the flower, he wouldn't be able to save Carla. Then he asked why the hell he came to this space in the first place. After that, he fell to his knees powerlessly, leaning his palms on the ground. The already familiar fairy was sad with him. She called him by name. The other fairies also watched what was happening in the clearing. After some time, night came. Many stars appeared in the sky. The head of the killed snake lay on the ground. Serena stood nearby. She held a sword in her hands. Fafnir stood next to them. He said that this monster made him sweat a lot. The girl said that the snake was suspiciously strong. She assumed that it was because this spirit of darkness apparently strengthened him with its magic. She hopes that the protagonist is okay there. The dragon said that the spatial rift disappeared as soon as he passed through it, so now he can't even follow them. Among monsters, there are those that magic does not work on. Fafnir thought that perhaps it was a mistake to let him go alone. He cursed and thought about how lousy a familiar he was. At that moment, the main character appeared behind the girl. He was alive, apologized to them, and said that he was late. Serena shuddered in surprise and fear, after which she asked the guy how he was doing, if he was safe, to which he replied that there had been a small scrape, but it was all over. Fafnir said that he knew that he would return safe. The main character said that he came out through this spatial gap. At the same time, Serena looked at him carefully, then chuckled and said that she understood everything. Then her expression changed, it became more wary. The girl asked about the matted flowers, whether he managed to collect them, to which the main character lowered his head. His expression became sad. He apologized to them and said that he did not get them. Serena immediately asked him what he meant, to which the guy replied that everything was fine. The girl clearly did not understand what he meant. Then Noah turned to the dragon and asked him to take them to level up on himself, while he apologized for this request. The dragon responded with consent, explaining that this would not create any problems for him. Noah thanked him and explained that he had no magic left for the spatial transition. After these words, he climbed onto Fafnir's back with Lady Serena, and then they all soared into the sky together. The girl looked around warily. She was clearly scared. She hugged the guy to make sure she didn't fall. At this point, the dragon turned to the main character and asked if it was really okay that they didn't get the magic flower, since that was what this whole journey was all about. To which the main character said with a smile that everything was fine, and then turned to the unknown man and said that he could go out, because the dragon was good, so he shouldn't be afraid. Then the boy asked if he could ask him for a favor, to which Fafnir asked him who he was chatting with and what strange language he was speaking. Sometime later in the house of Karl's family, the man, along with his wife and the doctor, were standing by their daughter's bed. The woman was holding her hand. She was lying there, still unconscious. The father addressed his daughter, calling her Carla, and asked her to hold on a little longer. Her mother was also worried and called her by name. The girl was feverish. Beads of sweat were running down her face. Karl said that everything would be fine. Mr. Noah would definitely return with the magic flower. At that moment, the girl opened her eyes and called her dad. It was obvious that she had no strength, but she managed to smile weakly and said that they should look, because there was a fairy in the room. Karl asked his daughter what she was saying. It was obvious that he was scared by her words. He asked her to just hold on, everything would change soon. At that moment, the girl's mother raised her head up because she was curious about what her daughter was talking about. The woman was surprised. She turned to her husband, clearly agitated by what was happening. He asked her what had happened. After that, the man also raised his head up. And at that moment, he was slightly taken aback by what he saw in front of him. Above them all, practically under the ceiling, there really was a small fairy hanging in the air, with wings and in a peculiar costume. The girl addressed Carla by name and with a smile on her face asked if that was really her name. The fairy lands on the bed, and the girl's parents look in amazement at the little creature with transparent wings. Carla looks at the fairy, and she, smiling, looks at her. She announces to the girl that the time of miracles has come and asks her not to forget to thank Mr. Noah. The fairy turns to Carla's parents and promises them that everything will be fine now. The girl's father thinks that he is dreaming all this. Many fairies fly through the night city wearing beautiful dresses and flower bracelets on their legs. The dark sky is illuminated by the light pouring from the windows of the houses. Fairies of the summer, talking and laughing. Carla's father looks out the window and sees hundreds of lights in the sky, like tiny fireflies. The fairies fly straight towards Noah and his companion. A dragon named Fafnir on Noah's shoulder notes that magical flowers grow where fairies live. Noah is surprised that fairies have appeared in a city full of people and assumes that the reason is the magical flowers. The young man thinks that he saved the fairies trapped in the spatial gap and they decided to help him in return. The dragon looks at the fairies flying in the sky and reflects on the fact that another feature of Noah's talent is deciphering other languages, and says that for a hero, there are no racial barriers. He concludes that this is to be expected from the one who made a minion contract with him. Noah asks Fafnir what he is muttering. and proclaims that it is time to start creating the elixir. The ingredients appear on the table as well as the elixir itself in a glass flask. Happy parents embrace their daughter. Carla-chan, who suffered from magic meridian Harding syndrome, was finally cured. The girl laughs joyfully. The heroes are pleased with the work done. The girl's father turns to Noah. He doesn't know how to thank him now. He bows his head and sincerely thanks the young man several times. Noah asks him not to bow his head. The hero is glad that everything is fine with Carla now. The father tells his daughter that Noah has healed her from her illness. The girl thanks him. The young man smiles. The head of the family turns to his wife and Carla. Noah thinks about how his mother died shortly after he was born and his father never loved him. So he can see a lot. Deciding that it would be impolite to continue to disturb the family harmony, the young man tells everyone that he has to leave. Carla's father asks Noah to have dinner with them if he doesn't mind. The hero says that Carla needs to recover from her illness. The girl replies that she no longer feels any discomfort and that she even feels better than before the illness. She wants a hamburger. Carla's family invites Lady Serena and the others. They agree, seeing that everyone insists. Fafnir warns that despite his appearance, he is a herbivore and is offered white apples. The dragon loves them. The fairy states that she is also interested in human food. Noah is surprised that she is still here. She flies up into the air in front of them and everyone laughs happily as they watch her. Noah thinks that this is a real family. Everyone gathered around a generously laid table, eating delicious food and talking. The B Rank's quest to collect the magic flower has been completed. Noah reports that he has surrounded the entire forest with a barrier, and now no spirit of darkness will enter again. The fairies say that this is what was expected of Mr. Noah. The fairy thanks the hero for everything he has done for them, and says that now Mr. Noah is like the embodiment of a deity for them. The fairies. They bow in thanks, and Noah laughs sheepishly. The young man waves goodbye to them, and the fairies ask him to visit their forest again. Mr. Carl thanks Noah for diligently completing the quest, and adds that due to this, his rank has been raised to E, which he congratulates him on. The hero thanks him. The man presents the young man with a reward from him. 5 platinum coins in a small chest as he promised. Noah says he can't take them, they're too much. He asks to use them for Carla's future. The man replies that's how he's already used them. The girl's father takes his hands in his and asks Noah not to refuse the reward because he deserves it. A crowd of people gathers in front of the building. The young man notices that many people have gathered today. Serena says that if she is not mistaken, a famous archaeologist from Ludolf, the capital of the kingdom, is due to arrive. The girl adds that they need an adventurer to accompany them to explore the ancient ruins to the east. Noah asks again about the ancient ruins. She sees that the young man is interested, because after all he himself uses ancient magic. An unknown girl loudly declares her despair. She says that she has come a long way from Ludolf. But here too she is faced with ordinary adventurers, and she needs someone with a more extraordinary and unusual talent. Mr. Carl suggests that she take a closer look at Noah. He introduces her to the hero as a very promising newcomer who has only recently become an adventurer. The girl looks at the young man and asks him what rank he is and what kind of little dragon he has on his shoulder. Noah informs her that he just achieved E rank and the small dragon on his shoulder is his familiar, with whom he made a minion contract. The girl turns away from him, declaring that he is no good. Mr. Carl is shocked by her decision. She says that E rank is not even considered. They need a group of B or at least C ranks. The man tells her that Mr. Noah has experience in completing B rank missions. The girl thinks that he was just lucky. The young man asks Mr. Carl not to try to persuade her. He is sorry to hear this, but there is nothing he can do. Lady Serena stands up for Noah, explaining his low rank by saying he is just a new adventurer. She asks if he has a chance. The young man stops her, calling her by name. It turns out that the girl knows Serena and that she is an A-rank adventurer. She is very surprised by this. The girl says that there is even a group of her fans in Ludolf because she is the youngest A-rank adventurer and an excellent swordsman. Noah says that Lady Serena is awesome after all. The heroine replies that it's nothing. The girl says that she would very much like to take her as an escort if she agrees. Serena apologizes and says that she refuses since leaving Leblup is not in her plans yet, and she is not interested in the ruins, unlike Noah. The girl asks why she is standing up for the E-Ranks boy. She assumes that it is Serena's boyfriend, which is why she is so partial. Serena denies this assumption. She states that Noah is incredible despite his rank, and that she vouches for him with her A rank. The heroine asks the boy how his wounds and magic power are. He is already fully recovered. They go out into the yard. Serena challenges Noah to a fight. She explains that there is simply no better way to prove his strength faster. The young man hesitates. The girl is skeptical, considering this absurd because they have a huge gap in strength. Everyone is amazed. They don't know who would even decide to fight the lady. Serena encourages the hero not to hesitate in hopes that Noah will not fight to the fullest. The young man decides to suppress the firepower to the level of sparring, but he knows that ancient magic can seriously injure a person if it hits. Serena flies into the air and tells Noah to try to hit her first. The girl brings her blow down on him with all her might. The heroine tells him not to be afraid because she hit him with the flat of her hand, although she assumes that the pain must be severe. The girl encourages him to continue the fight. This time, the young man is the first to react. Serena compliments him on his great reflexes and adds that she envies his ability to float in the air. The boy announces that it is his turn to attack. The girl agrees. He extends his hand forward. Serena knows that this is a special spell of Noah's, called Absolute Flame, and that it is better not to expose yourself to it. Otherwise, you will knock it off so easily. The hero attacks by surrounding himself with flames. The girl runs towards him. She is perplexed because the flame is not flying towards her, it has frozen around him. The heroine watches as Noah disappears behind a curtain of flame and makes guesses. She wonders if he has disappeared, but reassures herself that the hero will definitely take advantage of the opportunity to appear behind her back. Serena is sure that the young man will approach her from behind using a spatial transition. The girl attacks, but unexpectedly for her, Noah reads her attack and uses the transition again. The young man admits that it is not easy to beat Serena, and she says that she lost without a chance. The girl screams that she can't believe her eyes, that E-Ranks has defeated A-Rank. Hearing the crowd's cheers, the heroes remember that they are being watched. The girl apologizes for her previous rudeness and tells Noah that she would be happy to take him as an assistant in exploring the ancient ruins. The young man really wants this and accepts her offer. Serena is happy for him. She thinks that it's too early to say goodbye. The hero agrees with her. The girl says it was a short but very valuable experience, like being in a fairy tale. Noah replies that he knew almost nothing about the life of adventurers and learned a lot. Serena says that she won't be surprised if the next time they meet, the boy will be an S rank or even the title of hero of the Razde Kingdom. She wishes Fafnir to take care of himself, and he responds in kind. Noah thanks his friends for their help and shakes Serena's hand. The girl tells the hero that there is a magical transport parked outside the city, and they will go to the ruins on it. The young man agrees. Noah waves goodbye to everyone, thanking them again for their hospitality and wishing them good luck. The heroes say goodbye. The young man and the girl go off towards the forest. Mr. Carl with his daughter in his arms looks upset about parting with Noah, and Serena wishes him success. An active volcano can be seen beyond the treetops. Smoke rises above the forest and into the sky. The girl finally introduces herself to Noah. Her name is Yoon, and she works as an archaeologist and engineer of magical instruments in Ludolf, the capital of the kingdom. The boy introduces himself and Fafnir in return. Yun says it's not often you see a small talking dragon, and she's impressed by his menacing name. Noah laughs. Finally, they reach the transport the girl was talking about. The boy asks if this is the magical vehicle Yoon was talking about, and adds that it is the first time he has seen one. The girl says that it is a motorcycle, her pride and joy. She asks if the boy is ready to go. Gas comes out of the exhaust pipe. Noah thinks that a dimensional jump would get them there in a second. But he always dreamed of traveling the world. The motorcycle takes off and the heroes set off. They ride past high mountains, and clouds float across the sky. In the evening, Yun and Noah stop for the night and light a fire. The next day they arrive at the site. The young man is impressed by the ruins. Yoon suggests they start exploring right away. The heroes enter the building and head straight into the unknown darkness of the corridor. They came to ancient ruins east of Ludolf. Yun, holding a flaming torch, leads their small procession. She announces that as the leader of their group, She will first teach Noah about archaeological research. The young man agrees with her. She tells him that the valuable treasure of the ruins is protected by many traps, so he needs to be careful. Suddenly, something attacks them and Noah reacts with lightning speed, activating a magic barrier that protects them. The hero tells the girl that she was right, there really are traps here. Yoon replies that she activated the trap on purpose to test him. Magical fetters suddenly appear from somewhere and entangle the girl's arms and legs. She does not understand what it is and what is happening. Noah helps her and frees her from the fetters. The bonds break and fly off to the sides, and Yoon flies away with a scream into the arms of the young man. The hero thinks that it looks like some ancient weaving tool. The girl thanks him for saving her. She frowns, angry that she's been caught twice already. Now Yoon is determined to take on anything. The girl climbs onto Noah's back and wraps her arms around his shoulders. She guides him forward. The hero says that it is a little difficult to walk like this. The girl says that she will not leave him again. Fafnir decides to go first. The heroes walk down the corridor. The familiar flies ahead. They approach an empty room. Noah assures him that everything is fine. There are no hidden traps in this room. Yoon holds on tightly to him. She trusts the boy. The hero says that he is interested in the symbols written on the wall. The girl asks if he can read them using decoding. Noah says that he can and peers at the writing. He deciphers that someone's daughter is already old enough, but eats without any manners, which makes the father worry about her future. Yoon asks what to make of this. Noah says that it is an ancient diary. He continues to analyze the symbols, which refer to the runic calendar which the heroes hear about for the first time. According to the civilization's calendar, it is the year 779, which means that more than 779 years have already passed. Yoon guesses that, judging by everything, an ancient people lived in his territory. Noah thinks about it. He reads about how harsh reality is and how someone has to go and defeat the dream turtle themselves, no matter what it takes. Noah wonders what kind of dream turtle this is. Yoon urges him to go and search at the great treasure of the ancient ruins. The hero agrees, and they go on. Having reached the end of the corridor, they come to a dead end. Familiar Fafnir states that they have already walked around and explored everything in these ruins. The girl looks upset because they have come all this way and found nothing. Young climbs off Noah's back and tells him that most ruin explorations end in nothing. They decide to at least read the ancient records. The hero looks at the wall and sees that something else is written on it. The writing on the wall calls for a certain book to be retrieved. Yoon doesn't understand what book it is. She takes the book out of her things. Noah asks what the book is, and the girl explains that it's her secret notebook, which contains everything from research notes to girly stuff. Yoon notices that nothing is happening. The hero asks to give him a minute to think. He needs to think everything over. He thinks it's about the Book of Peace. After a certain incident he tried several times, but it didn't appear. The young man hopes that she will appear in this place and concentrates, imagining the pages of a book. The book materializes in the air, and Noah is glad that he finally succeeded. He peers into the symbols, trying to find out what is written here about this ancient ruin. The hero finds information about the number of traps and their locations, how to disarm them, and a map of the ruins themselves. Noah learns from the book that there is a staircase behind the wall that leads down. With the help of a magic spell, the young man removes the wall and inserts a door. The girl is amazed by his skills, and together they watch as a passage forms in the stone wall. Noah exclaims that they can now move on, and Yoon behind him can't help but let out a cry of delight. She asks him to stop for a second and explain to her how he did it. The hero replies that it is difficult for him to express it in words and calls the girl to continue her research. Yoon notices the burning flame. Noah explains that it is a torch, an ancient magic. Yoon touches the surface of the walls, amazed at how their construction is completely different from the ruins above. The civilization that the ancients built is believed to be far superior to the modern one. Yoon can't believe his eyes, knowing that it's true. She excitedly proclaims that they have made the discovery of the century. Noah thinks it is simply amazing. The dragon Fafnir looks ahead in surprise. Yoon asks what he sees, what else they could find. For a moment, the heroes are speechless. Right in front of them, an unfamiliar girl is hovering in the air above a scattering of crystals. Her eyes are closed. Her arms are at her sides and her cloak and long hair are fluttering in the air. Yun is the first to come to her senses and asks her friends if it is a doll in front of them. Noah peers into the face of the girl floating in the air. The young man is sure that there is a person in front of them, but he feels a piece of magic. The hero is amazed. He did not think that this was possible. Noah comes closer to the crystals and touches the magic mechanism. According to him, it allows you to freeze time. Suddenly, everything is illuminated by a bright light, and the heroes are informed that access is granted. The mechanism starts working with noise and rumble. Yun does not understand what is happening here and why the device turned on. The girl shows signs of life and heads straight towards them. Unexpectedly for Noah, a strange girl falls right on him, knocking him off his feet. He gets up himself and lifts her up, looking into her face. The young man understands that the girl has come into her senses and feels relieved. The hero asks if she is okay. The girl answers something in an unfamiliar language. He does not understand a word. Noah realizes she is speaking a different language and can't help but curse. Suddenly, the stranger starts to attack. Her foot is millimeters away from the boy's face. Then she lands and prepares to attack again. The girl bends down to the ground and crawls towards Noah. He listens to her words again and wonders who she could be. The stranger arches unnaturally and leans on the ground with her hands and feet, continuing to make unintelligible sounds. The hero realizes that he hears chanting. He decides that things are taking a bad turn and asks Fafnir to protect Lady Yun. Noah and the girl attack each other at the same time. They cast a spell and an absolute flame is formed between them. The heroes stand opposite each other, directing magic in front of them. Noah is amazed that in the modern world there are still those who are able to use the absolute flame. Due to the suddenness of the situation, the hero does not hold back and throws the girl away, not calculating his strength. He notices that she speaks an ancient language, and now also uses absolute flame. Noah guesses that this is a surviving ancient. He has no other explanation for how she knows the ancient language. A young man approaches a girl lying on the ground to tell her that he is not an enemy. Suddenly, she jumps up and wraps her legs around his neck. Noah realizes that he won't be able to talk in this state. Fortunately, the hero's familiar comes to his aid, unleashing all his power on the stranger and freeing the young man from suffocation. The hero approaches Fafnir, who has increased in size many times over, and thanks him for his help. Yun is amazed by the dragon familiar's gigantic size and asks if he is the real Fafnir. The stranger is furious, and Noah tries to explain to her that they mean her no harm. The girl does not understand him. She guesses that she hears the language of runes, and before that there was the immense fiery power of the absolute flame. The stranger asks Noah if he belongs to the rune tribe. He apologizes and says that he does not belong to it. The hero asks Lady Yun for a minute to try to explain everything to the girl. She understands him. The stranger asks if she understood correctly that she was sealed for a long time in a tool that stops time. Noah adds that he speaks the same language with her thanks to his talent, decoding. The girl remembers how, in the midst of the war between humans and devils, her father forced her to come here. The hero asks again about the war with the devils. He only heard that long ago people and devils were in a protracted war. The stranger asks how long she had been sealed. Noah replies that so many that it is hard to believe because the language and magic she uses are now called ancient. The girl is amazed. She asks the young man to take her to the heavenly tower and surprises him with her request. The stranger explains that the watchtower is nearby and is built with runes in such a way that it will remain indestructible no matter how much time passes. She needs to see the world with her own eyes. Noah asks Lady Yun's permission to take the girl to the sky tower. She says they passed it on the way here and she doesn't mind. The watchtower rises upward, its top touching the sky. To the girl's surprise, Noah uses a spatial transition and the heroes are transported to the tower. The stranger looks into the distance and says that from here there is a view of the entire kingdom of runes. Kirchisha. From the top of the watchtower, the girl looks out over the kingdom that stretches out into the distance. The heroes arrive in Ludolf, the capital of the kingdom. They stop at the fortress wall. Noah thinks that the royal capital is something. He carries Yun on his back again, the familiar behind. The stranger, snorting disdainfully, objects that Kirshisha was more amazing. The young man chuckles. They enter the city and find themselves on a narrow, crowded street. The girl is covered in beads of sweat. She complains to Noah that there are too many people and shops around. The girl complains that she feels uneasy because in Kirchish, everything was different. She presses herself tightly against the young man, as if seeking protection. Suddenly, they are called out. The girl is looked at from all sides and called a beautiful lady and a doll. They have never seen such beautiful clothes and consider the stranger a foreign princess. Lady Yun notes that the girl's origins were revealed immediately, and Noah adds that her outfit is too different from what is usual in the capital. He gives her his long hooded cloak, saying that she will have to wear it for a while. Alexia thanks him. She thinks she feels much more comfortable in the robe and suggests that it might be because it has runes engraved on it. Finally, they reach Lady Yun's mansion. The girl is happy to be home. The maid greets her. She is glad to see her mistress back. The girl asks how the examination went this time. Yun replies that it was not bad. She introduces the maid to her companions and tells her that they will be staying with them for a while. Yun warns her that the girl is a foreigner, so she needs to be gentle with her. The maid understood her. She asks the girl's permission to take her clothes. She doesn't understand her. Noah explains to Alexia that she needs to take off her robe. She says she's hungry. Yun laughs that she now understands what she said. She decides that they'll eat first. The heroes enter a dining room with a large set table. The maid asks Noah if he has any special requests. He replies in the negative. Sitting at the table, the hero asks Alexia if she has any food preferences. She replies that she does not. The maid says that this is good and asks them to wait a little. The young man reflects on how long it has been since the servants treated him well. They are served food that looks very appetizing. Lady Yun announces that this is their chef's signature dish and wishes her guests bon appetit. The maid brings a basket of apples for Fanfare, and he looks at it with love and gratitude. Noah tells Alexia that they can start eating. Armed with a fork, she is determined to try what is on her plate. The girl furiously stabs a fork into a piece of meat. Noah and Yun do not take their eyes off Alexia. She makes a call and bites into the food. Tearing off a piece of meat, she begins to chew it, enjoying the taste. Observing Alexia, Yun comes to the conclusion that in some ways she even eats primitively. Suddenly the girl stops, looking up from her food. She remembers her manners and apologizes to those gathered at the table. Noah reassures her, saying that she has nothing to worry about. After all, if the food is so good, why hold back? Alexia says that her father was often angry with her. The young man agrees that royal families are strict about this. He says that if the girl wants, he can teach her. Alexia agrees, and Noah assures her that it's simple. He helps the girl hold the cutlery correctly and encourages her. She cuts off a small piece and puts it in her mouth. The hero says she's doing great. Alexia says it tastes even better this way. Noah smiles and asks the maid to bring a loaf of bread. He shows that you can cut it and put meat and vegetables inside. The young man demonstrates the finished dish that he has made. The sandwich looks very appetizing. He says it's much easier to eat everything together. Alexia agrees to try. Yun thinks that the sandwich looks very tasty and decides to make one for himself, seeing how Alexia eats with such appetite. The girl says that now she needs to wash herself. Noah thanks her and tells Alexia that she can go take a bath. Lady Yun calls the girl to follow her. She takes her hand and they walk down the corridor. The young man wishes them luck as he leaves. Fafter senses his uneasiness and asks why the hero does not come with them. Noah only laughs in response. In the bathroom, the girls take off their clothes and put them in baskets. Then they walk to a huge bathtub. Alexia speaks an ancient language, and without Noah's help, Yun doesn't understand a word. Alexia doesn't understand what the girl is saying either. Yun calls her an ancient woman and asks her not to get too carried away. The girl can't see well without her glasses, and she sees something scary in Alexia's gaze. Alexia, in turn, thinks that she's just taking a bath and doesn't need to talk. Lady Yun points to a bottle of shampoo and says something again. The girl assumes that she wants her to start washing herself. Alexia, watching Yun wash his hair, remembers that in Kirchish there was instant magic of cleansing runes. The girl wonders why Lady Yun is covered in foam, and what are the bubbles around her. She takes it for modern magic, noticing a pleasant aroma. Yun points to the shampoo again and applies it to her palm. She then teaches Alexia how to lather her body. The girl realizes that this is a cleaning product made from recycled plants. Yoon admires Alexia's smooth skin and calls her the princess of an ancient kingdom. She laughs, and the girl again does not understand her, because it was Noah who translated everything for her. Alexia considers Yoon to be an arrogant woman and reminds her that she is the princess of an ancient kingdom. Yoon thinks that she is not the type of girl who would not say such things, but she thinks that there is something about her expressionless face that bothers her. Alexia thinks that there is no need to talk in the bath. The girls are sitting in the bathtub, surrounded by foam. Yoon thinks how tired she is because not understanding another language is very inconvenient. Alexia and Yoon simultaneously say something unintelligible and exchange glances. They continue to sit in the bathroom in silence for some time. Finally, they climb out of the water. Wrapped in towels, they look in the mirror. Putting on his glasses, Yoon shows Alexia the hairdryer, calling it a magical tool for drying hair. She turns it on and Alexia feels the warm air coming from the hairdryer and puts her hands under it. Alexia is surprised that floating things can be used like that. Yoon thinks that the ancient civilization is scary. Meanwhile, evening falls. Noah asks how the bathing process went when the girls get out of the tub. Yoon and Alexia, in long, frilly nightgowns, smile and say it was intense, but they got through it. The young man is glad to hear it. Noah feels like the girls have really gotten closer. He tells Alexia that she will feel uncomfortable without the ability to communicate. The hero suggests that she study modern languages. The girl promises to try. Yoon asks if she can learn to understand the ancient speech. The young man is sure that with her erudition she will definitely succeed. He thinks that people from different eras can get along. Fafnir agrees with him. The girls unanimously ask Noah to take a bath with them next time. He laughingly refuses. The boy turns to his father and tells him that thanks to his talent for decoding, he can read such a difficult book. With a sparkling look, the child explains that it also allows him to understand many languages, so decoding is clearly an underrated talent. His father asks what good it does. He swings at the boy, and the boy, with fear in his eyes, understands that he will hit him again. The child begs not to beat him and promises to become obedient and do everything his father says. Noah wakes up in the middle of the night from a nightmare, not understanding why he suddenly dreamed about his childhood today. Fafnir is sleeping peacefully on his pillow. A new day has dawned, and life in the mansion goes on as usual. Noah and Alexia sit next to each other at the table. The girl, in modern language, says that she will eat bread and a white apple, pointing to the food lying on the table in front of her. Alexia carefully takes a bite of the loaf. The young man praises her for understanding modern language much better. The girl says it's because Noah is a good teacher. Noah laughs and says it's all thanks to Alexia's efforts. She asks the young man to stroke her head. He does not expect such a request, but thinks that the girl deserves it and strokes her. Noah praises Alexia, saying that she is a good girl. The girl is pleased. She promises him to try. The hero wonders if her father stroked her like that. For a moment, Noah remembers the look in his father's eyes from his nightmare. Alexia, noticing the change in the young man's mood, asks if he is okay. He assures her that he is okay. Noah reassures her that everything is fine and asks her not to worry about it. He decides to go to the guild to officially register Alexia as an adventurer. The girl asks him what an adventurer is. Noah explains that it is a kind of handyman who does anything, be it gathering or fighting. He tells her that she will be able to learn a lot about the modern world, and most importantly, earn money. Alexia says that she is not at all against being with Noah. The young man asks Yoon about her plans. She is immersed in creating a new magical tool. Fafnir says that her concentration during the work is simply amazing, and explains that the girl is now trying to redirect the power of the rune symbols. They decide not to distract Lady Yoon from her work and go to the guild without her. The heroes come to the Adventurers Guild in Ludolf. Alexia registers and receives a certificate stating that she is a D-rank wizard. The girl thinks that the registration was easy, but she spoke very stupidly, in her opinion. Noah says that Lady Yoon wrote a letter of recommendation in advance, with which Alexia was immediately given a D rank. The girl thinks that Yoon is a wonderful person. The hero was also promoted to D rank. Fafnir thinks that Noah's skills are worthy of an S rank. The youth reminds him that the rank can only be improved by one stat at a time. He decides that it is time to return home. Alexia's stomach rumbles. She tells Noah she's hungry. He suggests they go to the market. She likes this idea and runs ahead of the boy. Alexia says that after dinner, they will take a bath together with Noah. He refuses, saying that he will never set foot in there. Fafnir offers the girl his candidacy. The hero says that he only just now began to wonder what gender his familiar was. Noah takes another step and is literally speechless. Suddenly, a tall man in a long black cloak blocks their path. His silhouette is reflected in Noah's pupils. The young man recognizes him as his father, whom he did not expect to meet here at all. The hero asks him why he is in the capital of the kingdom. Alexia peers into the man's face, realizing that Noah's father is in front of her. He says that all explanations will come later, and they urgently return to the mansion. Noah reminds his father that he was the one who kicked him out of there. His father orders him to shut up and listen. The man grabs the boy by the hand. Fafnir is ready to defend his friend. Noah tells his father that he will not return. He answers that he has his own things to do now. His father lets go of his hand. Everything becomes clear to him. He declares that in that case he will return it by force, and a magical fireball appears in his hands. Noah covers Alexia and Fafnir with his body, warning them of the danger and introducing them to his father. The man, surrounded by spheres of fire, is, according to the young man, the most powerful fire mage. The father sends all the fireballs at once at his son, but he intercepts them all, surprising him. Noah creates a magical barrier in front of him, and all the balls crash against it. He calls it ancient magic. His father is amazed to see the purple fire. He thinks that what Princess Claudia said was true. The man asks his son if he found the ancient grimoire. Noah answers yes. The man guesses that thanks to the decoding, Noah has learned ancient magic from grimoires. He orders him to return to the estate and become the next head of the family. The young man refuses. Noah refuses because his father only sees his talent in him. The man doesn't understand what he means. He doesn't understand what's wrong, because the Aldeheims are a prestigious family of wizards, and talent is everything to them. The young man remains silent in response to his father's words, and Fafnir looks menacingly, sitting on his shoulder. The man says that he did not want to cause a pogrom in the capital of the kingdom, but in such a situation he will have to anyway. He unleashes another barrage of magic on his son. Looking back, Noah notices Alexia's hands outstretched. He asks her what's wrong. The girl is afraid that the man will hurt Noah. She asks the young man not to hold back and not to look at the fact that he is his father. The man looks menacingly at Alexia and calls her a nasty little girl. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake beneath their feet, and without taking his eyes off his father, Noah shouts out a warning of an earthquake. Everything dies down as quickly as it begins. Alarmed residents emerge from their doors and ask each other if everything is okay. They wonder why it was shaking so much. The man threatens Noah that he will definitely bring him back. He warns his son not to try to run away from him. It won't work anyway. Watching his father leave, the young man quietly calls out to him. He then turns to Alexia and thanks her and apologizes for his father. The girl seems not to hear him. She is so deep in thought. Fafnir asks him if he felt the same as him. Noah answers in the affirmative. A source of enormous magical power appears in the distance. A huge monster with giant spikes on its shell appeared in the kingdom. The girl tells Noah that it is a dream turtle. Alexia is amazed that she still exists in the modern world. A monster of monstrous size suddenly appeared in the east of the royal capital and is now heading here. According to records found in ancient ruins, his name is Dream Turtle. Lady Yoon reports this information about the monster to the royal family by appearing before them in the royal palace. The princess is terrified. The king promises to pacify the dream turtle with all the might of the kingdom of Razde Korj. He orders the Night Order to urgently assemble a unit of mages and immediately call all adventurers of rank D and above. The king gives orders to notify other nearby adventurer guilds. Mr. Carl and Serena learn that His Majesty wants as many adventurers as possible to be brought to the royal capital of Ludel. Yun tells Alexia and Noah that she can't even believe that almost everyone was raised on their ears. The girl is glad that the heroes immediately sense the presence of the dream turtle because given the speed of its movement, it will be in the capital in 3 days. Therefore, they will begin the task of pacifying it in 2 days. Yun says that she will be in the castle planning a strategy based on the information that Alexia shared with her, and for now they can use the mansion as they wish. Alexia asks her not to exhaust herself and to rest. The girl waves goodbye to them and leaves. The maid informs Noah and Alexia that she's sorry, but they have also been ordered to evacuate. The girl notices how quiet it has become in the city because now, in the capital, there are only soldiers and adventurers who will take part in the pacification. Noah suggests going to rest. He thinks it's better for them to save their strength for the decisive battle. The girl agrees with him. They say goodbye at the bedroom door, and the young man wishes her good night. Alexia stops him, calling him by name. She asks if she can sleep with him tonight. The three of them settle down on the bed, Noah, Fafnir, and Alexia. The girl looks the hero in the eyes and asks him for forgiveness. She explains that after the appearance of the dream turtle, she constantly remembers the past. She is so scared that she cannot sleep. Noah understands her. He looks at the familiar, who is sleeping without his hind legs. Alexia asks the young man if he is on bad terms with his father. Noah says yes and wants to explain everything to her. He reveals that he comes from the Aldeheim family, a respected magical family who disowned him due to his useless talent. The girl thinks it would be great if they could get along. Noah says it's more complicated than it sounds. Alexia asks him to promise her not to die. She says that she knows how strong he is. But the dream turtle is an unusual enemy. Even in Kirpchish, there was no equal to him. Noah promises her that he is not going to die. He is going to defeat the dream turtle. The girl snuggles up to his chest, and he strokes her head. Alexia falls asleep, and he thinks about how to fall asleep himself now. The young man reflects that he must be collected because the dream turtle is probably the strongest among his opponents. He wonders if his father will be involved in the pacification as an ally, and if so, that is encouraging. Finally, all three fall asleep and the bedroom becomes quiet. Morning comes. In the mansion, Fafnir wakes up Alexia and Noah. The young man asks him what happened. He fears that the movement of the dream turtle has changed. The dragon states that it is already past noon and asks how much longer he plans to sleep. Noah cries out, not expecting it to be so late. He remembers that today they have to be at the garrison. The young man tells Alexia to wake up and change. The girl rubs her eyes sleepily. She begins to change clothes, and Noah and his familiar are already leaving the room. The hero asks her if she is not worried at all, since she slept so soundly the day before the decisive battle. The girl retorts that he himself snored like a pig. Fafnir says that the main thing is that they made it in time. Meanwhile, in the eastern part of Ludolf, a garrison is stationed to pacify the ghostly turtle. Alexia is amazed at how many people there are. Noah says that people from nearby towns come too. Some of the people gathered look very unusual. The familiar guesses that they are most likely S-rank adventurers, of which there are only 12 in the kingdom of Rosday. Fafnir has a question for Noah. The familiar says that in this battle, it will be inconvenient for him to fight in the form of a small dragon, only he cannot assume his true form in front of so many people. He disappears into the tent and surprises his friends with an unusual shadow. The heroes see that Fafnir has turned into a human, and a female one at that. The familiar declares that in this form he will be able to go wild without any problems, and adds that he has no such concept as gender. All adventurers are given a strategy guide for an emergency quest. Noah thinks he should take a look at it. Alexia asks what is written there. Fafnir replies that he has no idea, and the young man says that the participating forces are divided into 3 main groups. The first strike force consists of knights of the Rosday army and a unit of mages. The hero says that they are being followed by a second strike force, to which they, the adventurers of the capital Ludolf, and those who arrived from the surrounding cities, are assigned. The last line of defense is the court mages and Srank adventurers. Alexia asks why they can't attack right away. Noah replies that it's better to entrust command to the army. The hero says that his father's name is among the commanders of the last squad. He thinks that he is lucky that they are in different groups, which means that the chances of meeting him during the mission are small. Noah also adds that, in addition, various mechanisms will hinder the progress of the dream turtle. Fafnir ponders what they have prepared to face in such a short period of time. But how long will other people be able to stand against the monster? Alexia admits that she never imagined that she would fight him again on this land. She asks her father and the people of Kirchish to look after them. The girl swears that this time she will definitely defeat the dream turtle. Noah suggests moving things to their place for now. They will spend the night in a tent today. The princess thanks Noah's father for participating in this task and asks for forgiveness for that day. Mr. Hildegard believes that it is not easy for Princess Claudia herself to replace His Majesty at such a young age. Her Highness does not want anything to happen to her father. The man believes that Noah is also involved in the emergency mission and, by proving himself, will certainly attract Claudia's attention. He tells the princess that he wants to fight in the front ranks, to which she replies that Mr. Hildegard is a very brave man, but given his skills, he would be better off in the role of commander. The next day is the time to fight. The knights stand ready for battle, closing ranks. The Rosday knights gathered on the field. A cannon salvo is fired, signaling the start of the emergency mission, Battle with the Dream Turtle. The battle has begun. The ghost turtle is already on the battlefield. Refugees arrive at a temporary shelter on the outskirts of the kingdom's capital. The child asks his mother if the bad monster wants to destroy their home. She tells him not to be afraid because Rosday's strong soldiers will defeat him. The mother reassures her daughter, promising her that everything will be fine. At this time on the battlefield, the guns are set to the maximum firing angle. Shells fall on the monster one after another. The commander is informed that nothing is working. The dream turtle is not stopping. He orders the soldiers to calm down and continue shooting, wondering what kind of protection it has. The monster is getting closer. The soldiers are holding their shells at the ready. The ghost turtle attacks. The commander orders a retreat. A giant monster puts the army to flight, destroying everything in its path. The adventurers are informed that the turtle has almost reached the second line of defense, and they should prepare to engage in battle. The adventurers are ready for battle. They are glad to finally fight back the monster. The ghost turtle is approaching. It is reported that the shells are running low and the protective barrier is damaged. The order is given to regroup. The soldiers think that everything is useless and that they will not be able to hold the front line. They are ready to fall into despair, thinking about the approaching end. They turn to the commander again, but he only grits his teeth. The man commands everyone to attack, and the soldiers carry out his order. They rush at the monster, defending their country, comrades, family, and everything that is dear to them, even at the cost of their own lives. A ghostly turtle of such monstrous size that the soldiers seem like tiny grains of sand against its background. Alexia thanks the brave warriors of this era for their courage and pride. She rises into the air and promises the astonished soldiers that they will not die in this battle. The girl covers the army with a magical barrier like a protective dome. She attacks the monster and tells the soldiers to retreat quickly. Alexia warns that this giant is already close. The ghost turtle is already here, and the girl orders everyone to run right now. The soldiers are speechless, dismayed. Noah keeps his eyes on Alexia. The hero turns to the dream turtle. He says that because of her, all the people of Kurtshish and Alexia's father are dead. The young man summons a magical tornado and attacks the monster. The soldiers wonder where the tornado came from. Alexia and Fafnir look at Noah. The hero shouts that because of the turtle, Alexia was left completely alone. The youth summons the Stormblade. He attacks the ghost turtle again. Noah sends blow after blow at the monster. Alexia doesn't believe that after such an attack there is not a scratch on her, since she defended herself by hiding in her shell. The girls watch in amazement as the turtle continues to withstand blow after blow. Noah theorizes that the dream turtle's shell is capable of absorbing magic and firing it back. Alexia warns the young man that the monster's firepower can be defended against, but she herself is a difficult opponent. The hero sees no point in continuing. He thinks that everything is exactly like with that mithril golem. Noah understands that all that remains is to change the dream turtle with the help of the Book of Peace. He asks Alexia and Fafnir to distract the dream turtle for a while. He has a plan to defeat it. The hero explains to them that the problem is that he won't be able to move for a while. They ask Noah to rely on them. The young man thanks them. He begins to put his plan into action. Alexia and Fafnir exchange glances. The girl asks Noah worriedly about the magic attack from behind. The hero replies that he is fine. The young man asks the two of them to occupy the dream turtle. Noah feels a familiar figure approaching and doesn't understand why at such an inopportune moment. His father declares that the young man must disappear right here and now. The hero notices that his opponent is using a robe with protective magic. He is surprised and comments that it is an ancient thing, although it is outdated compared to modern magic. The boy gives the order to use the third level of flame, the fire whip, to defend against the attacking hero. He tells the flame to turn into a whip and hold back the enemy. The boy shouts for his father to stop. Now is not the best time to attack. But his words fall on deaf ears. Dad says he doesn't care about the dream turtle or what happens to the kingdom's capital. The man says that he has no time for them now. The hero intensifies the attack using absolute flame, to which the enemy responds with an ice technique, creating an ice wall. Noah actively uses magic shot, blocking the enemy's attack, absolute flame, which is beyond the compatibility of attributes. He exclaims about the flame and strengthens his technique to the 6th level of flame. The enemy counterattacks with a powerful spell, Lava Meteor, attempting to land a strong blow. The mage is surprised by the hero's strength, stating that he did not expect such a worthless talent to be comparable to his power. And he thinks that this power will not go to the Aldeheim family. He expresses concern that if the boy's expulsion becomes known, it will damage their reputation, and it is possible that he will even be stripped of his title and he owes at any cost and does not finish the sentence. The man realizes that he must prevent this from happening if he refuses to return home, other than to erase the very existence of his son, Noah Aldeheim. The son addresses the enemy, calling him father, with mixed feelings. He firmly declares that he is not going to return home and will not allow himself to be dealt with. The protagonist emphasizes that he has already made a decision. He intends to defeat the dream turtle. The boy admits that he does not want to fight the enemy, but the situation forces him to act. The guy explains that the current situation left him with no choice, strengthening his determination. The father notices the hero's serious look and says his son's name in surprise. The enemy expresses extreme indignation, accusing the hero of impudence for addressing him as a father. The son says with difficulty that it is too late to pretend to be a father, demonstrating internal conflict and emotional tension. The father exclaims in surprise that he has disappeared and notes that it is transference magic. The man with black hair and a mustache firmly declares that he will not let the hero escape, calling him a brat. Noah firmly states that he has no intention of running or hiding, showing determination and readiness to continue the confrontation. The boy angrily demands that the hero stop clinging to him and warns him of the consequences if he does not let go. The father reminds the hero that he is his biological father and expresses surprise that his son intends to deal with him. The protagonist sighs heavily and says goodbye to his father, demonstrating pain and decision-making. The girl asks another character how she feels, and she confidently replies that everything is fine. They say Noah's name in a special way. The guy apologizes to the other characters for the delay. Noah is determined that they are now ready to challenge the dream turtle. The girl asks about his father. He replies that he no longer has a father. The heroine is surprised and says that she is attacking. The protagonist suggests that the two distract the enemy for a short time while he figures out the perfect defense and shows how to deal with it. The characters agree to help, and their actions show their willingness to complete the task. The mage is determined to get as close to the dream turtle as possible to achieve his goal. Other characters express their willingness to help and join him. Someone wonders if he can handle the monster alone. In response, another character notes that such people usually use monsters for their own purposes. The heroes prepare for action, and one of them says that it is time to start fighting the dream turtle. Noah admits that he should have done the task himself, but now understands the importance of teamwork. The other characters support him, declaring their willingness to protect him. The boy realizes the seriousness of the situation and decides to begin implementing a plan to change the situation. It is reported that this is the headquarters pacifying the dream turtle. The girl asks what is happening at the front. Someone reports that the second line of defense is currently breaking through. It is said that there seem to be several adventurers with extraordinary strength who have slowed down the progress of the grazed turtle. The girl with glasses thinks that the extraordinary adventurers are Noah and his team. She asks to support the adventurers with the whole army. The hero resolutely declares that he will not allow the enemy to break through the defense of the last line. The leader announces that the adventurers who came for reinforcements need to be gathered, and the S-rank adventurers need to take up battle positions. The use of magic tools to strengthen the defense is mentioned. The hero studies the text containing strange symbols and assumes that these symbols may be encrypted. He thinks that this is a perfect defense and thinks that the current case is different from the situation with the Guardian Golem. The boy decides to try to read the text using his talent for deciphering codes. He claims that he can now understand the content of the text. The young man thinks that if he rewrites part of the text about the dream turtle's shell, Noah begins to wonder if he might have made a mistake when changing the text. The protagonist realizes that he needs to change all the symbols in order to understand the Dream Turtle's defenses. He mentions that he spent a lot of time in the library studying ancient codes. The hero declares that he is ready to continuously decipher ancient grimoires. The magician believes that this is a mere trifle for him, and he will decipher everything. The girl expresses irritation, calling the hero problematic for his persistence. The soldier indicates that it is necessary to attack the enemy's unprotected areas, concentrating all attacks on one point. The heroine says that she doesn't know who she is. But right now, their hope, the girl with horns, needs to concentrate magical support on her. She says that magic doesn't work on the Dream Turtle anyway and asks not to be stingy. She thinks that people with whom she was enemies came to her aid. The monster expresses displeasure at being underestimated and admits that he was too soft. He continues to say that it is because of the time of his imprisonment. People understand that they cannot hesitate because of appearance at such a moment. The monster asks Noah for forgiveness. The enemy states that he has reverted back to his evil form. The soldier expresses surprise and shock, saying that this is impossible and mentions the corrupted disaster dragon Feonir. Someone warns the opponent not to become too arrogant, showing confidence in his abilities. The two warriors discuss the situation, pointing out that now is not the time for talking. They note that the girl has shown incredible abilities, comparing her to the legendary creature Fafnir. It is reported that despite the difficulties, he will cover while Fafnir confronts the Dream Turtle, even if it requires great effort. The girl thinks about what is happening, noticing that the magic power he uses, Noah is now trying to rewrite something. She asks Fafnir for forgiveness for what she is forced to endure. A book called the Book of Peace is visible, which is said to be a supreme power created by the king of the Rune people, which is capable of changing even the laws of this world. It is said that the book of the heritage of the Rune people ended up in the hands of a person who did not belong to this people. The enemy expresses disappointment, thinking that he got rid of all the Rune people after the last war. The girl thinks that it is his doing this time too. The heroine calls on the enemy not to touch Noah. The monster asks them to leave. He will not allow them to use the power of the Rune people's book again, and he resolutely declares that he must deal with Noah right here. The girl firmly declares that she will protect the guy because she can no longer lose dear people. The monster states that the Rune people never learn anything and wonders why it takes so long to resist him, and he adds that they should join their allies. The adversary warns that it is not safe for people to encounter his power, which he calls darkness. The heroine expresses concern for the young man and asks him to hurry. The hero actively studies books, trying to find information or a solution to the current situation. It is reported that the old man with a beard, a pointed hat, and a staff is the legendary Archmage Lawrence, and the one in black is the one who professionally solves issues with dragons. His name is Siegfried. It is said that the alienated Misa is with the king of beasts Fenrir. The girl states that as an elf, she does not care what happens in the royal capital. The wolf turns to her and asks her not to say such things so loudly. It is explained that she introduces herself as an S-rank adventurer from Heckville, the neighboring Ileto dukedom where the familiar guild is located. She achieved S-rank without the help of a party, only thanks to her familiar. The character with the ears notices how many impressive personalities have gathered here together. Another character also decides to show off her best side. Someone asks if she is the A-ranked adventurer, Serena. The hero thinks that Noah and the others are probably already fighting on the front lines. She mentions that the task force is working hard. The girl says that it is clear that the future of the kingdom of Rosde depends on the situation. The child calls out to Highness Claudia. The girl recognizes another character and expresses surprise and thanks Yuna for her guidance. The man brushes off the gratitude, saying that now is not the time for that. Yuna mentions that the Dream Turtle will soon reach the last line of defense. They were able to buy time thanks to the front lines, and warns Claudia of the worst-case scenario and says that she should evacuate. Serena says she will stay put. She says the people on the front lines are fighting bravely, so she has nothing to worry about. The heroine reminds that she represents the king and that her departure could affect the situation, because the soldiers' morale would be greatly shaken as she left. She confidently states that the Dream Turtle will definitely be defeated and emphasizes that they will not lose. The soldier notes that even in this situation, the princess's heart will not waver even from the dragon's roar. He expresses his determination to stay together until the very end. The girl thanks him for his support and expresses concern about losing contact with Mr. Hildegard, who has moved to the front. Her Highness Claudia expresses hope that the man is well now. The knight calls Mr. Hildegard and asks his fellow soldier to urgently go after the winged dragon. The man wonders why he is here. The soldier happily says that, fortunately, he is alive. He reports that the gentleman was wounded during the operation to subdue the dream turtle. The fighter reports that it appears he only lost consciousness briefly and that his body miraculously suffered no serious damage. The hero apologizes for the trouble. The man says that Mr. Hildegard is their significant effort. The man feels as if he has forgotten something very important. He expresses surprise and strange feelings. The aristocrat notices a robe with ancient inscriptions, is surprised and tries to understand where he has seen this robe before. The character is sure that he has seen this robe somewhere. He experiences discomfort and headache despite the fact that he cannot remember the details. He thinks that something is crawling inside him. The hero is convinced that he must know the owner of this mantle. He feels that this knowledge is extremely important for him. Another character asks the hero if he is okay. The man says yes, and that he feels a slight pain in his head, but it does not seem serious to him. He realizes that now is not the time to think about his headache, and firmly states that it is necessary to deal with the dream turtle as soon as possible, and decides that he will take the winged dragon. Another character expresses concern, pointing out that the hero has not yet fully recovered from his injury. Mr. Hildegard insists on his decision and orders the dragon to fly, ignoring the concerns of those around him. The hero notices that powerful magical emissions are occurring on the dream turtle's shell. The enemy says that the hero looks like the last representative of the Rune people and intends to deal with him. The man activates the 7th level of light to combat the manifestation of evil. The girl asks the hero if everything is okay with him and expresses surprise that he did not sort things out with his father. The character admits that they met earlier in the royal capital. Noah's father is indignant at why she came here and declares that she should leave the rest to him. The heroine expresses surprise, noticing that Noah's father does not look like his former self. The girl feels that he has changed and is no longer the man she knows. She thanks him for his help, but also wonders if his attitude towards his son has changed. The adventurer suggests joining forces to protect the main character. Mr. Hildegard asks if the one standing behind her is Noah. The heroine is surprised that he still asks who this guy is because it is his own son. The man is surprised by the information about the presence of his son and says that his head hurts again. The hero says that he no longer has a father. The girl looks at him with surprise. She notices Noah using a memory wipe spell on his father and thinks that he decided to erase all memories of himself to keep him alive. The monster expresses displeasure, calling what is happening their pathetic parody. The man and the girl notice that it is a spirit of darkness that survived even after a direct hit by a 7th level spell. The heroine believes that she is the main villain, the one who summoned the dream turtle. She expresses sympathy for the young man, saying that she feels very sorry for him. The heroes decide to explain themselves and defeat the spirit together. The father decides to lend them his strength. The girl thanks him and says that the memories removed by memory erasure will never return, and admits that he has become lonely, just like she is now. The monster declares that quantity does not change anything, and now there are 2 of them. Mr. Hildegard asks if the guy is his son and thinks that he has never heard anything more absurd in his life. He notices that the name seems familiar. The hero says that the name sounds familiar and calls upon it for protection. The man uses fire magic, creating a shield of flames at level 7 to protect himself from attack. He notices that the protagonist is trying to break through the enemy's perfect defense and transfers huge amounts of magical power to the dream turtle. It is reported that in such a state the magician himself is in danger without any protective magic. And one wonders why the people around the hero did not teach him the basics of magic. The father explains that he used the 3rd level of flame to create a fire phantom to deceive the enemy, emphasizing that it is impossible for a weaker mage to act without illusions, and says that it is just a deception created from fire. Mr. Hildegard asks why he missed again, and if he really is a spirit of darkness. The monster replies that he will regret that he dared to fool him. The first character says that it is good that the spirit of darkness is not very bright. The second character notes that this gives them a little time. The father thinks that this guy is using up too much magic power. The girl offers to transfer the power to her character. The man says she is almost at her limit and admits that he has no choice. he has to do it. The character asks if the man really thinks he can penetrate the dream turtle's perfect defense. Mr. Hildegard tells her to watch out for the spirit of darkness. He asks about Reina, and notices that the young man looks a bit like Reina. The adventurer feels a headache that is getting worse. The magician is thinking about this guy and another character. The heroine calls the man, calling him Hildy. She notices that he has fallen asleep at the table again. The woman says she understands that reading grimoires really captivates him, but stresses the need to know when to stop. Reina suggests that the hero sleep in a bed to avoid the habit of falling asleep at the table, and expresses concern that the child that is born may adopt this habit. The man asks her for forgiveness. It is reported that he met her at the Royal Academy of Magicians. The boy reveals that he was born into a family of magical aristocrats, the Aldeheims, with a talent for magic. The girl mentions that Reina was a commoner, albeit a gifted one. Due to her extreme diligence and enthusiasm, she took first place among those entering the Academy of Magicians. The hero says that they often quarreled because, as an aristocrat, he could not lose to her. The guy goes on to explain that she herself willingly accepted his challenges, guided by her own desire to defeat a high-ranking aristocrat. He says that they did not restrain themselves at all in clashes, but surprisingly, their relationship developed harmoniously. Before they had time to come to their senses, feelings arose between them. He says that due to differences in their backgrounds, both sides were categorically against their relationship. But young hearts cannot be ordered, and having insisted on their own, they got married. The woman notices what it is. The persona replies that it is written that it is a grimoire. She explains that this is the first book of ice magic for beginners, ice magic accessible to everyone. The aristocrat says that since he was born into the Aldeheim family, he should master at least that much. But even that will not be enough. The girl asks about name options, and the man replies that he hasn't thought about it yet. The magician sits at the table, thinking about something, and says that this sounds not bad. It suits both a boy and a girl. The doctor says that the lady is in critical condition, and if nothing changes, he won't finish the story. It is reported that Reina was never in good health, and this was inevitable. The gentleman asks her not to say anything. Everything is fine. The man says that they have a great doctor and midwives too, and he will be there. And he says that he has thought of a name for their baby. His name will be Noah, and asks what her name is. The woman says she likes the name Noah, adding that it is beautiful. Rain expresses regret that he will not be able to see his son's face when he is born. He apologizes to her for constantly causing her trouble. The characters hold hands, showing their love for each other. The girl also says that she loves him. It is reported that soon after this, Reina gave birth to a beautiful boy, but she herself leaves this world. He asked not to leave him alone, expressing anxiety and dependence on her presence. The man realizes that he should have loved Noah the way he loved the late Reina and been a good father to him. He admits that he was unable to accept Reina's death, which greatly affected his psyche. The aristocrat notices a huge amount of magical power in the child that he has never seen before. This leaves a deep impression on him. The magician understands that the girl sacrificed herself for the birth of this child, which makes him especially valuable. It is said that he protected his own psyche by shifting the blame for what happened to his beloved onto Noah. The man is sure that this child will become the most powerful magician in the world due to his unique magical power. It is indicated that 5 years after the determination of his talent, he did not finish speaking. He expresses grief and disappointment, saying that his dream was shattered in 1 hour. Mr. Hildegard admits that he tried to harm his child with Reina. The character states that he considers himself the worst father in the world. The man reflects on how he treated Noah and realizes that some of his actions can no longer be undone. He turns to his son, expressing surprise and uncertainty. The girl notes that the memories that were erased cannot be restored. The shadow moves quickly, creating a tense atmosphere, and says that he found them after all. The monster asks if they enjoyed fooling him. The woman warns the others to be careful and to avoid danger. She asks everyone to run away as she cannot resist the spirit of darkness due to lack of magical power. The enemy talks about why they think he will let them go. The enemy warns that the Rune people are about to cease to exist and threatens that nothing will change. The man asks himself what he is doing, expressing doubts and concerns. He says he left the girl to defend herself and asks himself why he is running. Mr. Hildegard wonders what he should do next, showing his confusion and indecision. The father thinks about how he will look into his son's eyes when he opens them. He thinks that his whole attitude towards him has always been ignorant and wonders what good an apology would do now. The hero says that it would be best to disappear from this world. The spirit of darkness laughs and calls the rune people stupid. The monster offers the character to give up his son quietly so that he can be saved. The heroine expresses confidence that the spirit of darkness will not be able to take possession of the guy. The enemy says that even the king of the rune people cannot change the dream turtle, even having inherited the power of the Book of Peace, because the king of the rune people himself was not able to do so. He orders to surrender and take a worthy account. Another character asks to let her go. Shadow says that his mind must be empty if he came back after such an event. Mr. Hildegan reassures the other character that Noah is safe. He says he put up the barrier to keep his son safe if anything happened. The man considers himself a worthless person. He realizes that he has ruined his own son's life. The aristocrat expresses surprise and realizes that his life no longer has value. He feels that everything will happen again if he runs away from problems again. The hero admits that he could not cope with the loss of his wife Reina and blamed it on his son. The magician firmly declares that running away is not even an option. He can no longer run from his problems. The character says that for the sake of his late wife Reina, he must love his son Noah. He decides that this time he will live. The monster notices that the hero looks strange. This character thinks that there is no point in encountering such a useless person. Mr. Hildegan says that he is still considered the most powerful fire mage in the world. He says a bad spirit like him will burn to ashes in his flames. The monster says that this is all nonsense, and mentions Noah and Reina asking for their forgiveness for his actions. Also mentions that neither the reputation of the magical family of Aldeheim, nor the authority of its leader, nor whether the magical talent is a success or failure mean anything to him. He calls upon the spirits of fire scattered throughout eternity to answer his call. The spirit asks the hero if he thinks the spirit will wait for the hero to cast the spell. The man admits that he fell for the same trick twice, and says that's why he's stupid. The hero turns to the flame, which has existed since ancient times, and calls upon it to come to him to destroy everything. Reportedly uses 10th level flame, limit meteor flame, in an attempt to counter the enemy. He says that he himself can't do anything against the magic-immune dream turtle, so he gets everything. The father says about Noah that he will have to act further, since he himself can no longer continue the fight. The girl expresses admiration for the hero's magic, calling it magnificent. Someone notes that even as a human, he succeeded in this. The monster says that who would have thought that he would be forced to reveal himself by someone like him. He notes that this is the first transformation in 100 years. The creature says that there is no need to be afraid, as it will put the hero out of his misery by eating him in one bite. Someone apologizes to Alexia, saying that he stayed too long. The boy speaks, recognizing in the creature the very spirit of darkness he had heard about. The guy realizes that now there is an opportunity to deal magical damage to the dream turtle, since the protection has been removed. The protagonist expresses surprise and asks what is happening around him. He feels that there are many questions he would like to ask, but he realizes that now is not the time to talk. The girl notices that a crack has appeared on the dream turtle's shell. The young man points out that the effect of Mr. Hildegan's supreme magic is starting to take effect and adds that it is dangerous here, so for now it is worth moving away from the shell. The character prepares to launch a counteroffensive against the dream turtle. The heroes notice that the dream turtle's shell is beginning to disintegrate, although only partially. They realize that the process is ongoing and that there is hope for success. One of the heroes says that among all the adventurers, there is only one who is capable of doing something so impossible. The princess urges the team to act now, pointing out that if they have a chance to win, they must seize the moment immediately. This grandfather with a beard and hat is reported to be the court archmage Lorenzen. He uses a third-tier lightning spell and asks what it was. The mage says that magic has begun to affect the dream turtle, and she reports that her resistance to magical attacks has not just decreased, but has begun to work in the opposite direction, doubling the damage received. The wizard continues to say that he has never seen anyone do anything like this in his life, and that it is true what they say, that you need to study all your life. He saw a magical signal for help. The protagonist says that someone must come to take his father. Noah admits that he planned to sever all ties with his father. However, he notes that it is difficult to imagine how the memory wipe could have stopped working on his father. The girl claims that her father was very sorry for the way he treated him and even apologized. And she understands that she did not understand everything that was said. But she does not even finish the story. The boy says that during the erasure of his father's memory, he noticed flashes of his father's memories. He adds that he cannot simply forgive his father for the past. The boy says that her dad truly loved her mom. One of the characters expresses his thoughts about another person whom he thought was insensitive. However, he now realizes that the situation was actually different. The hero tells how he was saved in a difficult moment when his magical power ran out. He admits that without his father's help, he could have been in danger. Noah decides to talk to his dad about how this battle will end. The young man offers to help Alexia with her wounds, but she claims that she feels fine, although her condition is worrying. So he sternly asks her to sit down. The monster is amazed at how Noah was able to overcome the Dream Turtle's complex defenses. One of the soldiers shouts Fafnir. Another knight expresses outrage, warning the commander of the possible danger and pointing out that he could also be hurt. The girl is said to be the S-rank adventurer known as the Aloof Misa, and the wolf is said to be the Beast King Fenrir. The monster becomes displeased when he notices that someone else is controlling Fafnir and thinks that he is now someone's pet. Misa wonders if she is the only one with control over an S-rank monster and wonders about the identity of the creature's master. The adventurer comments that it is incredible that the rampaging dragon would bow its head to someone and asks Fenrir if he knows him. The Beast King admits that he has fought this dragon many times in the past. The dragon notices a familiar creature and asks in surprise if it is the ice dog. The wolf exclaims how nice it is to meet after so many years and jokes that he can freeze the enemy for fun. Someone calls on everyone to focus on the current fight against the Dream Turtle and reminds them to be attentive. The warriors resolutely state that while there is still an opportunity, they must inflict maximum damage on the enemy, pointing out that the quality of his defense has been significantly reduced. Magical deterrents are reportedly ready for attack. They notice that the Dream Turtle is immobilized. The girl says that they are disconnecting one by one. Some say that even a small slowdown of the enemy is already a significant success. The heroine firmly states that any damage, even minor, is important for their victory. The knights urge everyone to work together, using all their strength to continue the attack on the Dream Turtle. The girl tells that long before the founding of the Kingdom of Razde, not far from their current location, there was a huge city-state. Yuna explains that the ancient city was called Kirpshisha and was inhabited by ancient people known as the Rune Tribe. The adventurer explains that even now one can find ruined buildings in the surrounding area, remaining from the ancient city of Kirkshish. The heroine mentions the famous Heavenly Tower, which is visible from the royal capital and reaches an incredible height. The soldiers are ordered to retreat as the operation enters its final stages. At this point, the Dream Turtle breaks through the last line of defense. The dragon expresses surprise at the order to retreat, asking if someone hadn't read the strategy manual carefully. The character thanks Alexia for permission to carry out the plan. The princess confirms the need to retreat. It is reported that if he and Noah had not gone to the ancient ruins, they would not have met Alexia. Yuna concludes that the Kingdom of Razde would most likely have been destroyed because it would not have been able to withstand the giant monster that suddenly appeared. And she says that it is not for nothing that every action is a consequence of the previous action. The girl notes that even for the Dream Turtle, falling from such a weight can be dangerous, especially when its defenses are weakened. The dragon decides to continue the battle despite the difficulties and expresses his willingness to take on further responsibility. The heroines call out Fafnir in surprise. The dragon says goodbye to the Dream Turtle, and he understands that he has reached the limit of his capabilities and strength, falling. The enemy is reported to be no longer moving. The monster expresses disappointment and anger, saying that who would have thought that they would collapse the Sky Tower, and reports that he spent a lot of time resurrecting it, but it turned out to be a big useless thing. He admits that he himself received an incurable wound from Noah's attack and considers the situation terrible, thinking that it is impossible for everything to end so sadly. The enemy asks the Dream Turtle to give him his body. The heroes are surprised when they notice that the creature has started moving again. The princess firmly declares that all troops must retreat. She claims that they are leaving the capital of the kingdom. Another character expresses surprise upon recognizing the princess. The girl says that continuing the battle will only make the situation worse. The young lady emphasizes that not only they but also other residents will suffer from the invasion. She calls for evacuating people as far away from the capital as possible. Misa notices that the situation is getting serious. They discuss the possibility of protecting the elf village if nothing changes. Someone notices that this monster is already something of a god or demon lord. The enemy declares that the world is beginning to fill with human darkness. He says that this is exactly what he is striving for. No one notices that the spirit of darkness has teamed up with the dream turtle and expresses surprise, thinking that he should have dealt with it by attacking its shell. The protagonist decides to use the Book of Peace to weaken the enemy. They find that the object does not appear, causing them shock and concern. The girl explains that the power used belongs to the king of the Rune tribe. She says that he doesn't have enough access to use it further since he doesn't even belong to the tribe and therefore his options are limited. The guy asks what to do. The young man asks Alexia if there is a way to increase his powers. The girl replies that she does not know because the fact that he inherited the power of the book is already a miracle. The hero decisively declares that there is no choice and that he will have to act without the help of the book, and asks her to stay here. The adventurer says that if he doesn't go, the kingdom's capital will be destroyed, and Alexia expresses surprise and alarm, saying that he, too, has a limit. The guy reminds the girl of his promise not to die, calming her down. She expresses her emotions more strongly, saying that she doesn't want to lose any more loved ones, especially after the tragedy with her father, and she says that she understood how to raise his access. Alexia reflects on the fact that after the death of her father, the place of the king of Kirkshish is empty and that she, the princess of the Rune tribe, is not finishing the story. The girl thinks that if they get married, the throne will go to him. The father turns to the girl and says that a kiss for them, the people of the Rune tribe, is an extremely sacred act, and adds that it should only be given to a truly dear person. She asks Aldeheim and Noah to provide eternal protection to the Rune tribe. The heroine apologizes that everything happened so suddenly and says that they just decided to get married. The protagonist expresses surprise and admiration at the power he feels. The girl explains that the hero can now use the Book of Peace without restrictions since he became the king of the Rune tribe, albeit in such a crude way. She declares that with this power they will surely win. The warriors understand that they are in danger. The monster uses vector change. One of the knights uses the ability to fully heal. Noah makes an indirect spatial transition, leaving others in another place. The creature sees that its path is blocked by another character and expresses its determination to act. The enemy states that he would never have thought that the Book of Peace would be summoned again by someone not from the Rune tribe and adds that it is even better this way. He will deal with him and receive the power of the Book of Peace. He laughs at the hero, challenging him to a fight. The guy activates a sword of light that pierces the darkness to attack, then chooses to change the quantity, and uses multiplication, creating multiple swords to attack. The opponent says that this is a very entertaining, childish prank. The warrior points at something, attracting the attention of other characters. A glowing object is spotted above the dream turtle, who is fighting it, causing surprise among the adventurers. The hero expresses concern over the disappearance of the magic. The monster says that his ability to use the book does not matter. Without mana, he will not be able to do anything. Noah realizes that changing the world's principles with the book requires significantly more magical power than before. He opens the book and finds records of restoring magical power and overcoming the upper limit of magical power. The guy claims that he can change himself. The girl and the opponent express surprise as they see him completely dominate the dream turtle. The young man claims that as long as the Book of Peace is in his hands, the spirit of darkness has no chance of winning. The creature asks what he is. He doubts the hero's confidence, recalling his past success in fighting the Rune King, who also possessed the Book of Peace. The kingdom's capital is reportedly plunged into darkness, causing concern. The hero notices that the pages are starting to darken. The enemy states that he has imbued the core of the world with his darkness, and now he will not be able to use the power of the book. The enemy threatens that everyone will be consumed by darkness, causing alarm among the heroes. The knight expresses despair, stating that the situation is hopeless. Noah realizes that the book is now made up of black pages, leaving him shocked and uneasy. He notices that the pages of the book are not just black, and he notes that they are covered with small symbols, which surprises him. The protagonist admits that he has never encountered such an absurdly complex language before, feeling confused. The boy realizes that the symbols on the pages of the Book of the World can be deciphered. The young man recalls his lonely childhood days when he developed the ability to decipher, a skill that will now come in handy for understanding the Book of the World. The monster declares his victory and rejoices about it. The hero says that in order to prevent darkness from falling, he mysteriously falls silent. He goes on to explain that he will use his absolute protection, the Dream Turtle. Noah thinks that the world is made of symbols. The power of the book allows him to create anything. The enemy wonders in surprise how he can still use the book's power. The hero explains that the Dream Turtle's shell absorbs all types of magical power. Noah adds that she shoots magical power back. The guy states that the Dark Spirit chose the wrong opponent and adds that if there had been someone else in his place, the world would already be under his influence as he wanted. The creature is surprised by the man's actions, not understanding how people can resist him. The protagonist notes that people have changed since the last battle and are no longer the same as before. But he has not changed at all. The adventurer discusses that from the past to the present, many have inherited experience with knowledge through books. People's feelings have been constantly passed down from generation to generation, and now they live at the pinnacle of accumulated experience. He thanks the Book of Peace for its help and support. Noah ends the conversation stating that it is over and turns to the Spirit of Darkness. On the horizon in front of the castle, a group of warriors and magicians has gathered, among whom figures in armor and robes stand out. The voiceover identifies the elderly man with a long beard, wearing a hat, as the legendary Archmage Lawrence. Next, they introduce a warrior dressed in dark, scaly armor, calling him the Dragon Slayer, Siegfried. The focus shifts to a character in a light-colored hoodie with cat ears, while a voiceover pronounces the conjunction "and." A large wolf asks Misa not to say such things so loudly, while she states that, as an elf, she doesn't care about threats to the royal capital. The voiceover introduces them as an aloof Misa and the Beast King Fenrir. The girl with cat ears notes to herself how many impressive personalities have gathered here. The voiceover describes the elf as an S-rank adventurer from Heckville who achieved her position without the help of a party, relying only on her familiar and the familiar guild in the Aledo Ducanum. The girl with cat ears walks across the rocky terrain, thinking that Noah and the others are probably already fighting on the front lines. Passers-by recognize her as the A-rank adventurer Serena, while the girl herself decides that she too must show her best side. A girl in glasses with a book in her hands points her finger to the side, giving orders in front of Serena and the knight standing nearby. In the background, the castle wall with high towers and spires can be seen. Serena notes that the task force is working hard, adding that it's understandable as the future of the kingdom of Rosday is at stake. A girl with glasses who addresses someone by calling her interlocutor Her Highness Claudia. A girl in glasses and a beret runs quickly across an open area, waving her arms. Claudia approaches a girl named Yoon and thanks her for her command, to which Yoon sheepishly replies that she is unworthy of it. Yoon reports that the Dream Turtle will soon reach the last line of defense and notes that they were only able to buy time thanks to the front lines. Yun insists that in case of a worst-case scenario, Her Highness Claudia should evacuate, but then interrupts herself, saying that now is not the time to think about that. Yun's face looks focused on what is happening. Claudia firmly declares that she will remain where she is, much to the surprise of the knight standing nearby. She explains that she has nothing to worry about as long as the people on the front lines continue to fight bravely. Yun listens to the princess's words in silence, maintaining a serious expression on his face. Claudia adds that she represents the king, and her departure now will greatly undermine the soldiers' morale. In conclusion, she reassures her interlocutor that everything is fine. Claudia confidently proclaims that they will not lose and the Dream Turtle will definitely be defeated. The knight declares that they will stay with the princess until the very end. The voiceover notes that the princess's heart will not waver even from the dragon's roar despite the current situation, while Claudia resolutely clenches her fist. Claudia thanks them for their support, but admits that she is only worried about one thing: the lost connection with Mr. Hildegand, who has moved to the front lines. Claudia hopes he's okay now, looking towards the fortress walls with their mounted guns. On the horizon, a view of a castle surrounded by high walls and endless plains opens up. In front of the castle fortifications, a battlefield stretches out under a cloudy sky. Soldiers fire a cannon at a giant monster while another winged creature hovers in the air above it. A man with a mustache lies motionless on the rocky ground in the middle of a desert landscape. In the distance on the horizon, clouds of dust or smoke rise, accompanied by a sharp sound. A man with dark hair and a mustache lies with his eyes closed and his mouth slightly open. Two guards in long cloaks and helmets notice the lying man and react to what they see with an exclamation. One of the soldiers shouts and waves his hand. announcing that a man has been found here, while the second expresses extreme surprise. One of the rescuers screams, recognizing the man lying on the ground as Mr. Hildegand. A group of people in robes and armor gather around the motionless man, examining him. The soldier leans over Hildegand and orders his comrade to immediately go after the winged dragon, to which he agrees. The guard watches with alarm the condition of the man he found, who begins to make inarticulate groans. Hildegand lies on the ground with his eyes closed, his face showing signs of exhaustion or injury. Hildegand comes to his senses and asks in confusion why he is here. The guard exclaims with relief whether Mr. Hildegand is alive and thanks God for his survival. On the ground next to the rescued person there is a medical bag and a small bottle of medicine. A group of rescuers surrounds Hildegand on the rocky ground and a winged dragon has landed next to them. One of the warriors supports the man and explains that he was wounded during the operation to subdue the dream turtle. Hildegand recalls the dream turtle and confirms that this is indeed the case. The guard assumes that the gentleman only lost consciousness briefly and notes that his body was miraculously unharmed. Hildegand detachedly agrees with the soldier's conclusions. The man apologizes for causing trouble, but the warrior accompanying him objects and assures them that Hildegand is a significant reinforcement. Hildegand falls into thought, noting to himself that all this seems strange to him. He admits to himself that he can't shake the feeling that he has forgotten something very important. Hildegand and his accompanying guard stand in an open area, the man looking down at an object lying at his feet. Hildegand's face expresses utter bewilderment. There is a crumpled piece of cloth lying on the ground, resembling a piece of clothing. Hildegand crouches down and takes the cloth in his hands, eliciting a silent question from the soldier standing next to him. The man recognizes the object as a robe with ancient inscriptions and understands that it belongs to someone specific. Hildegand's eyes widen, suddenly realizing something shocking. Hildegand looks at the light robe with dark inserts, realizing that he has definitely seen it somewhere before, but he cannot remember what this thing is. The character's thoughts flash to a description of an unpleasant headache, which is not very strong, but creates a feeling as if something is crawling inside and causing discomfort. The man is convinced that he must know the owner of this robe, while in the background a sharp sound is heard, pulsating in time with his pain. The guard inquires about Hildegand's condition, to which he replies that he just has a slight headache. Hildegand irritably tries to understand the reason for his condition, but decides that now is not the time to think about it, and that he needs to pacify the dream turtle as soon as possible. The man announces his intention to borrow a winged dragon, much to the surprise of those around him. The soldier objects, pointing out the danger of such an undertaking, since Hildegand has not yet had time to recover from his wound. Hildegand climbs onto the winged dragon and orders it to fly, ignoring any objections. The dragon soars into the air right in front of the astonished guards, who barely have time to watch its sudden start. The soldiers remaining on the ground in complete confusion call out to Mr. Hildegand, looking after him. In the sky above the deserted area, only the receding silhouette of a flying dragon is visible. Hildegand, riding a dragon, approaches the giant creature, noticing something unusual on its back. He notes that powerful magical emissions are occurring on the dream turtle's shell. Cracks are visible on the surface of the shell from which energy is escaping. Hildegand concludes that this signifies a certain development of events, while streams of magical power rage around him. A blonde girl in combat gear kneels with her hands on the ground as long ribbons flutter around her. She pushes off the surface sharply, making an acrobatic jump. While in an inverted position, the girl makes a wide swing with her legs, creating powerful streams of air or energy around herself. Numerous sparks and flashes fly in all directions as the heroine continues to make quick attacking movements in the center of the battlefield. The girl stands with her back to the observer, her ribbons stretched out to the sides, while massive black lightning bolts burst from the ground in front of her, converging at one point in the sky. The girl sharply throws her hand forward, directing a stream of energy or projectiles towards the target. The heroine and her young man find themselves inside a transparent protective dome, which absorbs the blows of dark lightning and flying fragments. The protective dome shatters into tiny fragments under the powerful force of the enemy attack. The heroine and her companion are left defenseless in the face of danger as dust swirls around them and fragments of the magical barrier settle. The girl screams in horror, realizing the critical nature of her situation. Her face, covered in bruises and dirt, is frozen in an expression of profound shock and despair. Through the veil of dust, an ominous dark silhouette emerges, towering over the battlefield. This mysterious creature appears to be the source of the destructive power that has overwhelmed the hero's defenses. The heroine breathes heavily, staring straight ahead with eyes wide with fear. She looks exhausted from the long battle, and her strength is clearly waning. A shadowy figure addresses her, noting that the last of the Rune people is already at its limit. The voice from the darkness proclaims its intention to exterminate them completely this time. A bright light in the shape of a four-pointed star flashes on the horizon, which is observed by two characters standing in an open area. A man with dark hair says that it is necessary to destroy the manifestation of evil. A man in a suit draws a bow of pure energy and announces the use of the 7th level of light. Hildegand, standing on the fallen creature, shoots his bow, shouting, "Holy arrow!" Someone's foot lands on the ground. A girl with long hair and a man with blonde hair look around. Hildegand asks if everything is okay. The girl turns to her father in surprise and pronounces Noah's name. She notes that everything happened as she thought, because Hildegand did not kill him. Hildegand stands in front of the girl and a winged creature flies in the sky above them. Hildegand suggests that they have met before in the royal capital. The girl looks at him silently and intently. Hildegand is indignant that she has gone mad to decide to stick her nose in here and orders her to leave the rest to him. The girl thinks that Noah's father is not at all like his former self. She continues to reflect, noting that it feels as if he has been replaced. The girl thanks Hildegand for his help and wonders if he has really thought about his attitude towards Noah. She extends her hand to Hildegand, calling on him to join forces and asking for his cooperation. The girl exclaims that they must protect Noah together. Hildegand looks at her silently and intently. At this time, someone with a pale face and dilated pupils quietly pronounces Noah's name. Hildegand asks again if the guy standing behind her is Noah. The girl stands there confused, making only a short questioning sound. She exclaims indignantly how he can ask about this, since he is his biological father. Hildegand clutches his head, complaining of a sudden headache. He claims that he cannot be this guy's father because it is impossible. The girl stands completely alone in the middle of a deserted area, keeping silent. Noah, his face hidden in shadow, says that he no longer has a father. The girl grits her teeth and realizes that Noah has taken this step. She stands in front of Noah and realizes that he used memory-erasing magic on his father. The girl wonders if he really decided to completely destroy all memories of himself in order to save his father's life. Hildegand and the girl look up at the dark ball of energy hovering above them. The dark entity with the eye inside is outraged and calls what is happening a pathetic parody. Hildegand is puzzled by how the enemy survived even after a direct hit from a 7th level spell. The girl explains to Hildegand that the spirit of darkness is in front of them. The girl, with tears in her eyes, mentally apologizes to Noah and names the entity floating in the sky as the main villain who summoned the dream turtle. The girl turns to the others and calls on them to unite in order to defeat the enemy together. Hildegand admits that he no longer understands anything but agrees to lend his power if that is what she wants. The girl thanks him, realizing that the memories removed by the memory wipe will never return. She looks away and notes that Noah, like herself, has become lonely. The spirit of darkness states that there are now 2 of them, but emphasizes that the number does not change anything. Hildegand and the girl stand before a spirit of darkness floating in the air, surrounded by a bright glow. Hildegand stares forward silently as a glowing ball of energy begins to form in his hand. He thinks about that guy and wonders if he really is his son. Hildegand notes that he has never heard anything more absurd in his life. Hildegand releases a powerful stream of energy from his hand, directing it to the side while Noah and the girl stand nearby. While he notes that he still feels something strange. In the haze and fog, Hildegand repeats Noah's name. Hildegand admits that the name seems definitely familiar to him. Hildegand stands with Noah behind him, thinking that the name sounds very familiar to him. The girl calls for Noah to be protected, to which Hildegand replies that he has accepted it. In the sky above them, a dark sphere pulsates, surrounded by black lightning, and inside it a silhouette with glowing eyes is visible. Hildegand extends his arms forward, which begin to transform and become covered in dark scales, taking the form of clawed paws. A massive black sphere, shrouded in lightning, hovers in the air above Hildegand, Noah, and the girl as Hildegand summons a pillar of flame to become his shield and announces the use of the 7th level of flames. A powerful whirlwind of fire rises up, shielding people from the sphere, and Hildegand shouts the name of the spell, Stronghold of Fire. Noah stands surrounded by a magical aura. while Hildegard wonders if the boy is trying to break through the Dream Turtle's perfect defense by transferring incredible amounts of magical power to it. Hildegard continues to reason, surprised that the people around him did not teach Noah even the basics because without protective magic, the magician himself is in great danger. Hildegard, Noah, and the girl stand with their backs to the energy raging before them. Hildegard watches what is happening closely. The spirit of darkness, appearing as an eye on a dark background, states that this is the end. Noah stands with his head down as a dark entity looms over him. The spirit of darkness pierces Noah through with a sharp, dark spike coming out of his body. The girl screams Noah's name in horror. A bright flame erupts, engulfing the dark entity, which makes a questioning sound. The spirit of darkness expresses bewilderment at what is happening. Hildegard, Noah, and the girl stand together, watching the scene with Hildegard holding his hand out in front of him. Hildegard explains with a grin that he used the third level of flame, a fire phantom, to deceive the enemy, since a weak mage cannot do without illusions. Noah stands with his eyes closed, stating that it was only a trick created from fire. Hildegard strikes, calling his opponent a bastard while a fiery silhouette burns out nearby. Hildegard spreads his arms and asks his opponent with a grin if he is really a spirit of darkness, mockingly noting that he missed again and is not capable of more. The spirit of darkness, three eyes blazing, furiously promises that Hildegard will regret his attempt to deceive him. Suddenly, 4 sharp black beams fly out from one point in different directions, piercing the bodies of Hildegard, Noah, and their 2 allies. Hildegard stands, holding the unconscious Noah on his shoulder, while the girl stands nearby, and they all silently watch the aftermath of the attack. Hildegard notes that they are lucky in their short-sighted spirit, and thus they will be able to buy a little time. The group is shown against a large shadow, with Noah sitting on the ground, leaning against Hildegard. Hildegard says with alarm that things are bad. The girl notices that Noah is using up too much magical power and decides to give him hers. Hildegard tries to stop her, pointing out that she is almost at the limit of her abilities. Hildegard declares that he has no choice and must do it. He turns to Noah, asking if he truly believes he can penetrate the Dream Turtle's perfect defense. Hildegard raises his palm and thinks that something is clearly wrong with him. A man places his hand on the chest of a young man in closed robes. A girl in armor watches them. The man tells the young man to watch the spirit of darkness for now, and the girl agrees. The young man stands with his eyes closed and remains completely calm. His face shows no movement. A man with a mustache and a scar on his cheek looks toward the young man. Beads of sweat and traces of the battle are visible on his face. The man reacts sharply to what happened and opens his eyes wide. Around him are symbols denoting a sudden sound or a sharp physical sensation. The man continues to stare ahead with an expression of intense surprise. He freezes, reacting to a noise or internal impulse. A girl with long hair stands with her back to her, and the name Reina is written next to her. The man with the mustache looks forward, surprised by the boy's resemblance to Reina and wondering why this is happening. A girl in armor and a man stand against a dark background and look in the same direction. The man clutches his head, complaining of a returning headache that has become much stronger than before. A man with a mustache and a shirt looks at his palm and then touches his neck. He wonders if this guy is real. Hildegard looks forward and holds his hand to his neck. The word Trog is written next to him. Hildegard's hands open a round locket. Inside is a photograph of a blonde girl with bangs. He remembers that he and Reina were together. The blonde girl stands with her mouth open, as if screaming, and debris flies around her. She screams for the man to wake up. A man sits at a desk with his back to the viewer, bent over papers. An inkwell and pen stand nearby, and he makes an indistinct sound. A girl stands over a man sleeping at his desk. She notices that he has fallen asleep at his desk again. A girl stands against a backdrop of bookshelves and addresses her interlocutor. She says she understands his passion for reading grimoires, but urges him to exercise moderation. A young, mustache-less Hildegard sits with a book, looking away. He quietly utters Reina's name. A pregnant Reina stands, holding her belly with her hands. She says the unborn child might pick up the habit of sleeping anywhere, and asks her interlocutor to go to bed from now on. Hildegard's hand gently touches Reina's ample belly. She instructs him about his sleep schedule. Hildegard awkwardly scratches the back of his head and apologizes to Reina. The girl stands next to him, looking calmly at him. The majestic building of the Royal Academy of Magicians is shown. It was here that Hildegard once met her. Young Hildegand stands in a robe while the text tells of his descent from the magical aristocratic family of Aldeheim and his magical talent. Reina reads a book intently. She was a commoner, but thanks to her diligence, she took first place among the applicants to the Magic Academy. Hildegand and Reina stand facing each other, serious-faced, against a backdrop of flashing lightning. They often quarreled, as he, as an aristocrat, could not afford to lose to her. Reina and Hildegand duel in front of the academy building, using spells. She eagerly accepted his challenges, seeking to defeat the high-ranking aristocrat. Hildegand and Reina look at each other after their clash. Despite their lack of restraint in battle, their relationship was surprisingly harmonious. The young people stand back to back against a backdrop of bright circles. Before they knew it, feelings had blossomed between them. A man puts a ring on a woman's finger. Hildegand and Reina stand in wedding attire. Despite the fact that both families opposed the relationship due to their different backgrounds, the heroes persisted and married. On a flat surface lies a massive closed book with a thick binding. A pregnant Reina stands next to a stack of books and asks in confusion what it is. Hildegand and Reina are in the library. The man calmly explains that it's a grimoire, and that's what it says on it. Reina holds a book in her hands and lists the titles of textbooks on fire magic for beginners and public ice magic. Hildegand reasons that as a representative of the Aldeheim family, he is obliged to master at least this amount of knowledge, although even this may not be enough. Reina asks her husband if he has chosen a name for the future child. Hildegand remains silent in confusion, to which Reina realizes that he hasn't even thought about name options. A view of the estate from above is shown. Hildegand admits his mistake and promises to think about the name. Hildegand sits at a table with his back to the viewer and thoughtfully flips through a small notebook, pondering his options. Hildegand makes a note in his notebook and notes with satisfaction that he has found a suitable option that will sound good and suit both a boy and a girl. A man enters the room and calls out to Reina, wanting to discuss with her the name he has come up with for the baby. Hildegand sees Reina lying motionless on the floor and screams her name in horror. A man in glasses and a white coat informs Hildegand, who is standing with his back to him, that his mistress is in critical condition and that if nothing is done, the outcome will be tragic. Hildegand looks shocked and can't believe what's happening, while Reina has never been known for her good health. Hildegand sits by the bed where Reina lies, and the text explains that what happened was inevitable. Pale Reina lies on the pillow and barely audibly calls Hildegand's name. Reina lies on the bed and starts to say something, but Hildegand interrupts her, asking her not to say anything and assuring her that everything will be fine. Hildegand, in great excitement, convinces Reina that they have excellent doctors and midwives, so he will always be by her side. Reina smiles weakly and quietly agrees with her husband. Hildegand suddenly remembers that he had come up with a name for their future child. The man suggests naming the child Noah and asks Reina's opinion on the name. Reina agrees that Noah is a beautiful name and repeats it, while Hildegand asks with a smile if she really thinks so. Reina lies with her eyes closed and tells Hildegand that she doesn't think she will be able to see Noah's face when he is born. Hildegand cries out Reina's name in despair. Reina apologizes to her husband for constantly causing him trouble. Hildegand sits by the bed and quietly calls Reina's name as she lies motionless. Hildegand tightly grasps Reina's hand, which is wearing a ring. He declares his love for her and calls her by name. Hildegand cries and calls Reina's name in despair. Reina lies with her eyes closed, a tear rolling down her cheek. She begins to say that she loves him too. Against the backdrop of the estate and the cloudy sky, Reina's words are heard that she also loves Hildegand. Hildegand bends over Reina, who is lying in bed, and cuddles with her one last time. The baby lies on a light cloth with his mouth wide open and cries loudly. Soon, Reina gave birth to a beautiful boy and quietly left this world. Hildegand bent over Reina's body, covering his face with his hands. Hildegand cries and asks Reina not to leave him alone. Hildegand cannot come to terms with the death of his wife and admits that he was never able to accept this loss. Hildegand cries and says that he should have loved Noah as much as he loved the late Reina and become a great father to him. Hildegand, in the present tense, is suddenly distracted from his thoughts and looks away. Sleeping Noah lies quietly with his eyes closed. Hildegand looks at the young man in shock, realizing that this child is in front of him. The infant Noah floats in the air, surrounded by a bright glow. Hildegard is amazed at the child's magical power. Hildegand looks at his son sleeping in his cradle. He notes that he has never seen such volumes of magical energy and superior magical meridians. Hildegan stands in the room lost in his thoughts and is silent. The man briefly confirms his suspicions. Hildegan realizes that Reyna sacrificed herself to give birth to this wonderful child. Hildegan's eyes widen as he looks at Noah. Hildegan realizes that he was protecting his own psyche by shifting the blame for his beloved's death onto Noah, and decides that this child will become the best magician in the world. 5 years later, when Noah's talent was identified, Hildegan stands in the library next to his grown son. Hildegan's dreams are shattered in an instant when he realizes the true nature of what is happening. Sharp stone spikes burst out from under the ground, destroying everything around. Amidst the chaos, Noah sits on the ground with Hildegard and another girl standing next to him, amazed by what they saw. Noah is confused when he realizes that all his memories have returned. The girl in armor looks at what is happening in bewilderment, not understanding the reasons for the changes in the behavior of those around her. Hildegan admits with deep remorse that he tried to harm his and Reyna's child. Hildegan stands in profile, his head bowed. His face is darkened by heavy thoughts about what he has done. He admits with horror that he is the worst father in the world. Hildegan weeps, realizing how cruelly he treated Noah all this time. He is horrified that he has done things that can no longer be undone, and that he has hurt his and Reyna's son. Hildegan is kneeling before Noah, trying to find words of apology. The girl knight watches this scene from the side in shock. She can't believe her eyes and wonders if the memories he once erased have really returned to him. A black shadow with 3 eyes falls from the sky towards the man, who says that he has finally found him. The girl looks away with alarm and reacts with a short exclamation of surprise. A black silhouette lands or attacks, and the shadow asks if the man enjoyed fooling him. The girl shouts a warning at the man, urging him to be careful and move away. The man looks forward silently with tears in his eyes, while the girl behind him watches intently. The girl suddenly shouts out a curse word, reacting to the rapidly developing situation. An armored foot slams down hard on the ground, sending up a cloud of dust and debris. The girl picks up the man and carries him away from the scene of the attack at high speed. The powerful impact on the ground causes an explosion, throwing the girl and the man even further away. The girl says that she does not have enough magical power to fight off the spirit of darkness. The girl begs the man to run away with Noah. The man, confused, asks the girl what will happen to her. The dark spirit raises its claws to attack, while the girl urges her companions, urging them to leave faster. The man agrees and begins to leave, supporting Noah. A dark silhouette with 3 glowing eyes asks if they really thought he would let them go. A dark spirit hovers in the sky, chasing the fleeing men, while a girl jumps towards him, trying to block his path. The girl finds herself face to face with a huge dark shadow, entering into a confrontation with it. The spirit of darkness declares that the room people are about to cease to exist and the girl will not be able to change anything. The girl furiously shouts at the enemy to shut up. There is a violent collision, causing a flash of light as the 2 men continue on their way, one of them making a painful sound. The man breathes heavily, realizing what is happening. The man wonders what the hell he is doing. The girl delivers a powerful kick to the dark spirit, causing a bright flash and sound effect. The man continues to walk away, leading Noah behind him, and reproaches himself for leaving the girl to fight alone while he runs away. The man and Noah sit on the ground near the huge stone spikes, while the former reflects on how the situation has turned out this way. The man stares into space in a daze. Noah sits with his head down, and the man wonders what he should do next. Noah sits silently with his eyes closed. The man is tormented by the question of how he will be able to look into his son's eyes when he opens them. The man waves his hand sharply, admitting that his entire relationship with his son was one of violence and that now apologies will be of no use. The man stares into space with a shocked expression on his face. He raises his trembling hand and thinks that this will be even better. The man lowers his head, stating a condition about what will happen if he acts in a certain way. The man's body begins to be engulfed in white flames as he speaks of his complete disappearance from this world. The girl hangs in the air, held by the hand by the black tentacle of the dark spirit, and coughs while the enemy calls the rune people stupid. The spirit of darkness holds the girl high above the sharp thorns and says that he could spare her if she obediently gave him Noah. The girl tells her enemy that someone like him will never get what he wants. The spirit of darkness laughs at her, claiming that it is impossible to change the turtle's dreams even with the power of the Book of the World, because even the king of the Rune people himself was unable to do so. The enemy calls on the girl to surrender and accept death with dignity as his black shadow approaches her. Someone's feet in shoes step firmly on the ground and a voice calls out to the dark spirit. The girl looks in surprise towards the source of the sound. The spirit of darkness turns the gaze of its 3 eyes to the intruder. Hildegand stands at a distance and demands that the monster let the girl go. Hildegand stands before the enemy, staggering, while sharp peaks can be seen behind him. The girl reacts with a short cry of extreme surprise. Hildegand stands with his back to the viewer, looking at the dark spirit hovering in the sky, which continues to hold the girl. The spirit of darkness mockingly remarks that Hildegand must be completely empty-headed to decide to return after he managed to escape at such a cost. The girl, still being captured, asks Hildegand through a cough why he returned. Hildegand looks ahead and urges the girl not to worry, telling her that Noah is safe. Hildegand remembers Noah and explains that he set up a barrier that will ensure the boy will be okay no matter what happens. The girl starts saying something addressing the man. Hildegand begins his confession with sadness in his voice, stumbling over the first word. The man clasps his head in his hands and calls himself a worthless person who ruined his own son's life. The spirit of darkness states that now everything is clear to him regarding him and Noah. Hildegand looks at his trembling hands and says that his current life has no value. The girl looks at Hildegand silently and sympathetically, and then tries to object to him. Hildegand cries with his eyes closed, realizing that if he runs away now, everything will happen again. The man admits that he was never able to come to terms with the death of his wife Rihanna and placed all the blame for her death on Noah, just as he did that day. Hildegand continues to cry, and one tear runs down his face. The man clutches the fabric of his clothes tightly to his chest and declares that he can no longer run away and that the option of escape is not even considered by him. Hildegand clenches his fist and says he is doing this for his late wife, Rihanna. Hildegand, with tears in his eyes, declares that he will live, and this time he simply must love Noah. The girl silently and intently watches the man. The dark spirit with 3 eyes mockingly notes that Hildegand has become completely soft. The enemy orders the man to disappear, claiming that there is no point in him messing around with such trash. Hildegand stands slightly bent over and looks resolutely towards his opponent. The man stands on the ground and says that he is still considered the most powerful fire mage in the world. The man suddenly raises his hand up. The man stares ahead and declares that such an insignificant spirit as his opponent will burn to ashes in his flames. The dark spirit laughs, calling the man's words complete nonsense. The man raises his hand, smoke coming from it, and apologizes to Noah and Rihanna, admitting that he was wrong about everything. Hildegand stands with his hand raised, calling upon the spirits of fire scattered throughout eternity to answer his call, knowing that neither the reputation of the Aldeheim family nor magical talent matter anymore. The girl raises her hand up in surprise, watching what is happening. The girl reacts with a short cry to the sharp movement from the enemy. The dark spirit's black tentacle swiftly attacks the girl, throwing her towards the stone spikes. The dark spirit declares that he is not so foolish as to wait for Hildegand to finish casting the spell. A dark spirit with 3 eyes swoops down from above. Hildegand stands with his hand raised up. The black blade of the spirit of darkness pierces Hildegand's body through and through. The enemy mockingly remarks that the man fell for the same trick twice. The spirit of darkness states that this is why Hildegand is insignificant as long as his attack passes through the opponent's body. Hildegand leaps towards the dark spirit and summons the flame that has been burning since ancient times. The man looks down as he continues his speech. Hildegand's hand is completely engulfed in bright white fire. Hildegand jumps and raises his hand over the enemy and commands the flame to come to him and destroy everything. The man looks at the spirit with fury while the girl watches from the side. It summons the 10th level of flame, called Meteor Flame Precipice. Hildegand breathes heavily and realizes that at the moment he cannot harm the enemy, who is immune to magic, so he decides to give everything to the spirit of darkness. A series of powerful explosions occurs at the site of the battle. The girl watches with alarm as the devastating consequences of the attack unfold. A man with dark hair and a mustache runs across an open area, leaving a cloud of dust behind him. He stops and stands at full height, looking forward, his clothes torn in places. A man's trembling hand raised above the ground. The man's face is shown close up, looking down with a sad expression. The man falls to his knees and, turning to Noah, asks him for forgiveness. He closes his eyes and says that he will have to cope on his own from now on. The man freezes in a kneeling position, shielding the blonde girl standing in front of him. A man with dark hair sits with his eyes closed, his face covered in abrasions. The blonde girl looks away and tells her father that his magic was great. Behind the seated man and the standing girl, tall columns of dust or energy rise. The girl's eyes widen when someone's voice addresses her. Against the backdrop of rising streams, a voice says that even as a human, he succeeded in such a thing. A huge monster covered in many eyes towers over a seated man and a standing girl, while the monster's voice says that he never thought that someone like that would make him open up. A girl with blonde hair looks ahead with her eyes wide open and her mouth slightly open. The huge, toothy mouth of a multi-eyed monster looms over a seated man and a standing girl as the creature calls on them not to be afraid and promises to devour them in one bite to put them out of their misery. The girl looks straight ahead with her pupils dilated in shock. A black-booted foot takes a sharp step on the ground as a voice asks Alexia for forgiveness. A gloved hand extends forward against the lines of movement, and a voice apologizes for being so late. A glowing blade flies towards the huge monster looming over the man and girl. The blade flies past the girl and Noah's father. He hits the target right on target, killing the main villain. The blonde girl looks away in surprise and shouts Noah's name. A dark-haired youth in a striped shirt with suspenders stands in a confident pose while the monster wonders if he is the spirit of darkness. The shining sword cuts through space, leaving behind a trail of energy. The young man reports that he has removed the dream turtle's perfect defense and can now finally deal damage to it with magic. A blonde girl stands next to a man sitting on the ground with his head down. The dark-haired boy looks at them silently while the girl quietly addresses her father. The young man looks away and thinks that he wants to ask about a lot of things, but decides to put off all conversations for later. The girl notices a crack in the dream turtle's shell, which begins to glow and grow. Enormous stone limbs or parts of the shell break into pieces while Noah discusses the effect of his father, Lord Hildegard's, high magic and warns that it is dangerous here and that they need to get away from the shell. A young man struggles to carry an unconscious man on his back, and a blonde girl walks next to them while debris falls around them. The young man, holding the man on his shoulders, confidently declares that they are now beginning to counterattack, and the girl standing behind him looks at him with hope. A huge, muscular creature with spikes on its back and a gaping mouth swings a clawed paw, while the tail of another monster can be seen next to it. The monster's head is covered with sharp teeth and its shell is cracked and begins to crumble into small fragments. The girl in glasses and a beret asks in surprise if the dream turtle's shell has collapsed. She addresses the armored knight, confirming that the shell has only partially collapsed. But the process continues. The girl looks intently at the young man and thinks that he is the only one among all the adventurers who is capable of doing something so impossible. A knight in massive armor calls out Yoon's name, while a girl in a beret shouts out an appeal to the princess. The princess declares that if they have a chance of winning, it is now. A girl in a beret and glasses, together with a knight, look into the distance, observing what is happening. A figure in a long robe and a pointed hat flies on a broomstick high in the sky above the monster's spiked shell. The court archmage Lawrence, wearing a wide-brimmed hat and a long beard, rushes forward with the hems of his clothes fluttering. The archmage, while in flight, points his hand forward and casts third-level lightning, shouting the name of the spell, Lightning Strike. The magical attack cuts through the monster's shell at high speed, sending shards of rock flying out of it as Lawrence flies past on his broom. The old man with a thick beard expresses bewilderment, wondering what just happened. The archmage in the hat notices that the dream turtle has begun to be affected by magic. The monster's shell crumbled until its resistance to magical attacks not only decreased, but began to work in the opposite direction, doubling the damage received. Lawrence flies on a broom and laughs, noting that he has never seen anything like it in his life and acknowledging the truth of the saying about being a lifelong learner. The magician notices bright flashes in the sky and realizes that this is a magical signal for help. Against the backdrop of a half-destroyed stone wall, a column of smoke can be seen rising into the sky. A young man and a young woman stand next to an unconscious man as a thin stream of signal smoke rises into the sky. The young man says that someone should come now to take his father, while the girl looks up in surprise. The young man in the striped shirt looks away silently. A man with a mustache lies on the straw with his eyes closed. while a voiceover reflects on how it was hard to imagine that the memory wipe would stop working on him. The dark-haired boy closes his eyes and says that he planned to sever all ties with him. A young man and a blonde girl stand against a backdrop of trees and ruins, looking at each other. The girl addresses Noah by name. The girl claims that his father was very sorry for the way he treated him and asked for forgiveness, although she adds that she did not understand everything he said, but that is exactly how it was. The dark-haired boy says he can't just forgive him. The girl looks at her interlocutor silently and seriously. The young man, looking at the unconscious man, says that during the process of erasing his memory, he saw a glimpse of someone else's memories. In these memories, a man and a young woman sit next to each other, and the young man notes that in them, his father truly loved his mother. The young man admits that his father always seemed like an insensitive person to him. But in reality, everything turned out differently. The young man, book in hand, recalls that when his magical power was running low, his father gave him his, and admits that without it he would have been in danger. The boy smiles and says that perhaps he should try to talk to his father when this battle is over. The blonde girl smiles happily in response to his words. The young man offers to take care of Alexia's wounds, but she replies that she is fine. To which the young man sternly orders her to sit down and not argue. A huge, spiky monster stands on the ground, and next to it, a dark, winged creature hovers in the air. A monster with a scaly body and sharp spikes opens its mouth wide, from which a bright beam or stream of energy erupts, directed downwards. The beam flies past the head of another helmeted creature, who dodges the attack as rock shards fly around. The black-winged creature addresses Noah, saying that he still can't believe that he was actually able to overcome the Dream Turtle's perfect defense. The head in the helmet reacts to what is happening with a short exclamation. The winged monster soars upward, preparing for its next move. The monster's massive, scaly, clawed limb lands in the midst of a group of armored soldiers, crushing them. Two frightened soldiers in helmets shout in panic to the commander that this is impossible and that he will get it too, and one of them shouts the name Fafnir. Part of the monster's huge head with massive sharp fangs is visible. The neck and part of the monster's head are shown from behind, with sharp spikes running along the spine against the background of rapid lines of movement. A second angle of the same huge clawed paw slamming into the ground and crushing everything beneath it. A tall, humanoid creature with a striped dark body and a long neck soars upward, leaving a trail of energy behind it. The same creature stands on the ground with its arms spread wide, while a powerful stream of flame or energy emanates from its head, directed towards the sky. A huge clawed paw plunges into the ground with force, scattering debris and dust around. A creature with powerful, spiky growths on its shoulders and neck stands among the shattered rocks, its head thrown back and throwing up streams of energy. Two armored soldiers watch the scene, and one of them shouts out a message to the boy. The beast's huge furry paw with black claws falls forcefully onto the ground, creating a vibration. A girl in a cloak rides a giant wolf, which runs forward quickly. A girl wearing protective glasses, introduced as the S-rank adventurer Aloof Misa, cheerfully urges someone to look ahead. The beast's eyes are shown close up, and it is introduced as the king of beasts, Fenrir. The dragon Fafnir's head is shown up close, and he is surprised to see that he is wearing a collar, implying that he is someone's pet. Misa is intrigued by the fact that she is not the only one who has an S-rank monster under her control, and wonders what kind of person is its master. Misa, riding on a wolf, approaches the bowed dragon and is amazed that this furious creature would bow before anyone, while Fenrir reports that they often fought in the good old days. The wolf stands in front of sharp ice spikes sticking out of the ground. A wolf makes a high leap, flying over a cluster of massive ice crystals against a bright sky. Misa, riding on a wolf, approaches the dragon, who makes a questioning sound in confusion. The dragon addresses the wolf, calling him an ice mongrel and asking if it is him. The wolf grins and calls the dragon a fried lizard, suggesting that after so many years they freeze him for a change. Misa urges the animals not to fight and reminds them that their current task is to deal with the Dream Turtle, which they need to focus on. Two massive clawed paws engulfed in dark energy or flame swing over the terrified soldiers. The commander gives the order to attack, noting that the quality of the target's defenses has significantly decreased, and urges them to inflict maximum damage while the opportunity exists. A group of mages surround a tall column with a spear on top, around which electrical discharges sparkle. The sphere on the column begins to glow brightly, and someone announces that the magical means of containment are ready. Between several columns in the sky, glowing zigzag chains of a magical barrier are stretched. Magic chains entangle and restrict the movements of the monster, which tries to break free, making furious sounds. The dream turtle is completely stretched and pinned to the ground by a multitude of magical chains and is immobilized. The magicians watch the situation with alarm and shout as the chains begin to disconnect one after another. The magical bonds on the monster's legs snap and disappear as the creature continues to struggle. A graceful boot firmly steps on the rocky ground against the backdrop of flying sparks. A figure with a sword stands before the monster's enormous paw, while a voiceover says that even just holding it in place will be enough. The girl in armor raises her sword to strike and shouts for the enemy to accept the attack. The same girl runs rapidly along the vertical surface of a huge monster, leaving behind a zigzag trail of her sword. A monster entangled in magical chains tries to free a limb, while in the background there is a thought about the need to inflict at least a little damage. She looks ahead with concentration. Several pairs of feet in different footwear, boots, and armor run across the dusty ground, creating a strong vibration. A group of adventurers, consisting of a mage, a female warrior with a sword, a girl in an oriental dress, and a large warrior with an axe, rushes to attack. A heavily armored black knight swings his massive sword, urging everyone to strike with all their might like water wearing away stone, while other fighters, including a monk, rush to attack around him. A group of warriors surround the monster's huge, scaly limb and begin to strike it with swords and axes. A portion of the monster's head, with sharp teeth as the creature makes a low rumbling sound. Misa, riding on Fenrir, and the dragon Fafnir rush together to attack the enemy, with the wolf opening its mouth wide, preparing to strike. Fenrir and Fafnir simultaneously release powerful streams of energy and flame from their mouths, directing them towards a single point in front of them. The combined attack of the two beasts reaches the monster's head, causing a powerful explosion and sparks to fly upon impact. A massive monster stands frozen on the battlefield, surrounded by ice crystals and magical chains, while figures in long robes watch from the side. A girl in light armor and with a decoration in her hair looks intently towards the ongoing battle. The giant dragon Fafnir soars in the sky above the city below, which is surrounded by a high fortress wall. Misa and the armored girl listen to a story about how, long before the founding of the kingdom of Razde, there was a huge city-state not far from this place. Misa, in profile, listens to a story about how the ancient city was called Kirkshisha and was inhabited by people known as the Rune tribe, against the backdrop of ruins and a tall, thin tower. Misa points to a tall tower from behind, while a voiceover explains that ruined structures left by this tribe can still be found in the surrounding area. Misa adjusts her glasses and listens to the continuation of the story about the Heavenly Tower, which can be seen even from the royal capital and which, with its height, really does reach the sky, and the soldier standing nearby nods in confirmation. Someone's hand is clutching a small rectangular object covered in runes with a round button on top. The commander in the helmet gives the order for everyone to retreat immediately. The soldiers flee amid explosions as a voiceover announces that the Dream Turtle has broken through the last line of defense and the operation will soon enter its final stages. Fenrir and Misa watch the humans retreat in bewilderment, with the wolf ironically noting that someone clearly didn't read the strategy guide carefully. Two dark human figures stand at the foot of a giant monster's paw against the backdrop of a light sky. Alexia stands in armor against the backdrop of stone walls, looking away intently. Misa thanks Alexia for giving permission for such a plan. The Dream Turtle's enormous head, with sharp fangs and multiple eyes, is shown against the sky. The thumb presses the round button of the rune-emblazoned device, producing a clicking sound. A tall white tower rises above the mountain range and the ruins of ancient buildings. The armored princess tells Misa that it's time for them to leave too, to which she responds in the affirmative. A group of people, including mages and knights, head towards a massive gate in a high fortress wall. She looks from behind at Alexia floating in the air and reflects on how if she and Noah had not gone to the ancient ruins that day and met her, everything could have turned out differently. Misa speaks thoughtfully about the connection between the present and the past and realizes that without this meeting, the kingdom of Razde would have been destroyed by a giant monster. The thin and incredibly long tower falls to the ground, crashing into a dense forest and causing a powerful explosion with flying debris and clouds of smoke. The tower lies on the back of a giant monster. pinning it to the ground with its weight against a cloudy sky. The tower pierces the monster's back, emerging from the underside of its body and piercing deep into the ground. The monster lies motionless on its stomach, completely pinned to the ground by a long fallen tower that has passed through the center of its body. Against the backdrop of a huge stone hand and fragments of columns, the name is located. A huge stone column falls on a monster with a pointed head and a black hole instead of a face, breaking into pieces upon impact with its body. The impact sends numerous pieces of stone flying in all directions, accompanied by a loud roar. 3 adventurers stand behind a stone wall and silently watch what is happening. The girl in glasses and a beret notes that even for the dream turtle, a drop of such weight at a time when her defenses are weakened would be critical. The girl with glasses screams in surprise, and at that moment someone loudly calls Yoon. The head of a huge dark dragon with sharp fangs appears next to her. The dragon spreads his wings in front of the people and declares that he will take over the matter from now on. The girls shout out Fafnir's name in surprise as he bares his teeth and says goodbye to the dream turtle. Fafnir releases a powerful beam of energy from its mouth that pierces space and is accompanied by electrical discharges and a loud attack sound. A blinding stream of energy reaches the monster's head, beginning to destroy its stone shell. Sparks running across it. The energy beam pierces the target, causing a powerful flash and leaving a trail of sparks and crackles. The large dragon Fafnir, engulfed in smoke, slowly lowers his head after completing an attack. The dragon's body begins to shrink and rapidly lose its power as it stands against the backdrop of clouds of smoke. The dragon, now significantly smaller, says that this was his limit and begins to fall down. A small dragon falls from a height right onto the wall of a fortress, while a girl in glasses rushes to his aid. A knight in armor looks through a telescope at the horizon. The dream turtle monster lies motionless under a pile of rocks, and someone reports that it is no longer moving. A group of people rejoice in their victory, while the girl with glasses continues to hold the small dragon in her arms next to her companion. A group of people, including a muscular man and girls in robes, joyfully celebrate their victory, raising their hands and clapping each other's palms. Through the cracks in the huge stone fragments, someone's dark eye can be seen watching what is happening. A creature with many eyes on its face angrily calls the celebrating people little people. The multi-eyed creature expresses bewilderment at the fact that humans were able to bring down the sky tower with an explosion. A dark figure hidden in the shadows among the rocks laments the defeat of the dream turtle, calling it a gigantic waste of time and lamenting the time it took to resurrect it. The multi-eyed creature with cracked stone skin states that it itself was mortally wounded by Noah's attack. A long, twisting appendage extends from the creature's dark silhouette, while the creature itself declares the bad state of affairs and its unwillingness to end things this way. The appendage moves towards the dream turtle's massive eye, and the creature commands her to give up her body. A group of 4 people, including a tall man in a wide-brimmed hat, a young man and a young woman, stand in an open area next to a dilapidated stone building in a forest. The dark-haired young man suddenly turns around as if sensing something behind him. The girls on the fortress wall flinch at the sharp sound and scream in bewilderment as the ground beneath them begins to shake. A giant tortoise rises high above the city with numerous rock fragments falling from its surface. A massive creature with a toothy maw and a pointed head rises from the rubble, towering over a girl frozen in shock, while those around her wonder if it could ever awaken again. The armored knights scream in panic that the dream turtle has started moving again and urge everyone to flee immediately. A huge, muscular monster with a pointed stone head towers over the fortress wall, easily destroying the masonry with its body. At the top of the remaining section of the wall stand a heavily armored knight, a robed girl, and a little girl, all looking in horror at the rising columns of dust and debris. A girl with a star-shaped decoration on her hair gives the order for all troops to retreat immediately and announces the decision to leave the kingdom's capital. The knight turns to the princess in surprise, and she replies that continuing the battle will only worsen the damage. The princess orders that the evacuated residents be told to get as far away from the capital as possible, adding that at this rate of invasion, it will not only be the city that will suffer. A girl riding a huge beast watches the monster and states that things are bad. A girl in a cloak and aviator glasses says that if nothing changes, the elf village will also be wiped out. In response to a question about protection, someone remarks that this monster already resembles a god or demon lord. A huge, faceless monster releases several powerful black beams from its head. which fan out in different directions. One of these beams falls on the city buildings, breaking through the roof of the house and causing destruction accompanied by a roar and flying debris. A blonde warrior girl helps a wounded or weakened companion walk against the backdrop of city buildings, while the sounds of blows echo around her. Black rays continue to strike residential areas of the city, passing through houses and raising dust and rubble into the air. A multi-eyed creature with a pointed head watches with satisfaction the knight and two girls, who are frozen by what they see. The creature notes that the world is beginning to fill with human darkness, fear, and despair. The monster opens its mouth wide and declares that this is exactly the result it was aiming for. The creature raises its clawed hands and lets out a loud scream as clouds of smoke rise around it.